You're now listening to the Sauce Talk Podcast. What up, everybody? It's your boy Yasigity Sauce, and welcome back to the Sauce Talk Podcast. Today's guest is a man who might be young in age, but he harnesses an old soul. A cultured character and a multi-talented individual who resembles a crossbreed of Freddie Prinze Jr. with a hefty scoop of Mark Anthony. Breathing a deep passion for music, accompanied by a high appreciation for love and romanticism, although his early years weren't so poetic as it may seem. Wielding a story with some familiarity to the likes of well-known comedian Kurt Metzger, he went from growing up in the Jehovah's Witnesses to thankfully escaping in young adulthood, to then finally maintaining some normalcy out of that dark, grueling, cultish past. His story is fascinating, and he's willing to bear all. Please welcome Jaime Rivera Jr.
That's quite an intro you got for me, man. Jeez.
What's up, baby?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. How about yourself? Listen, man, thank you. I really appreciate you coming out here to do this with me.
Yeah, no, I just, like I said, this is like my first time doing a podcast, and
even better, popped your cherry.
I know, yeah.
Popped your cherry.
But yeah, no, this is, I think it's appropriate. I used to stay away from like talking about it so much, you know? But I just feel like I'm at an age where I'm so at peace with everything that I'm kind of like, I can talk about it, you know? I can talk about my past and my dealings and
even the present, even what you're dealing with
absolutely.
These days.
Mm-hmm.
I met you around 2021, I believe.
Yeah.
I think that was about the time at the old place I used to get my haircut at, Substance Salon. Shout out to Substance. You were fresh out of the Parisian Beauty Academy, is that right?
Yeah,
when I met you?
Yeah, that's correct. I think I had graduated maybe like a month before.
Oh, and then you ended up there. Mm-hmm. How did you get into hair in general? Were you cutting when you were younger, kids in school, or you just developed a passion for it later?
I mean, I've always liked like the barbershop aesthetic.
Yeah.
The whole kind of like tatted barber. That was like something that was mad cool to me. But I didn't start cutting hair, surprisingly, until I was like 25.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I got it kind of late, which is, you don't hear that often.
No, you don't.
Most of the times it's people who start very young and then they're kind of grandfathered into it, whether their dad did it or you know. So what got me initially cutting into hair was honestly the pandemic. I had a buddy that needed a haircut, and he was like long curly hair and was just like, look, dude, I just need you to just put just a 2 and leave the top.
Okay.
And he's like, you know, you're an artistic guy. You know, you're very good at painting. You're very good with your hands. You know, do you think you can give me a haircut? And at that point, like, I didn't fucking know how to do anything.
Yeah, you just went for it?
Yeah. So then I was like, all right, he came to my garage and I gave him a haircut and I fucked it up so much. It was so bad, dude. I was like, the second the clipper hit his head, I just was like, I have no idea what
there's levels to that shit, man.
100%,
for sure, yeah.
Dude. And I messed it up, but he looked at me and was like, you know what? You know, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Wow.
Yeah, honestly, he was fine with it. I mean, he wasn't going anywhere, but it wasn't until then that I realized, like, you know, I wasn't really doing much. I just got back from California, and the restaurant job that I had, they closed, and I didn't really have much going for me. So I was just like, you know what? Why don't I just try to get into this?
A new challenge, a new skill you could obtain.
Yeah, I mean, I went to college for like 2 years, and I got nothing out of it. I was just never a school person, but
same, likewise.
Yeah, but I got it late. And honestly, it's like the best thing I've ever done. Honestly, I've met so many cool people, and I love cutting hair, and I love talking to people, and that's pretty much how I got into hair.
Cool. Yeah, I've never asked you since I've known you, so I figured I wanted to get to know that.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier on in the week, when you briefly talked to me on Instagram, and you came out on some things, you shared some rough moments in your life with me. When I first met you, like I mentioned to you, I had this like feeling that there was something else to you. Mm-hmm. Like I said, underlying, you know, that there's more to you than the eye could see, you know? It was like an instinctual feeling. Like there's something there. I just can't pinpoint it. And then, moments after we talk, boom, light bulb, bingo. Like that's what it was. Like I knew there was something. And, you have a fascinating story. It's not the happiest, but the truth is it made you, who you are today, and going through all of that, being brave and making the right decisions at the right time. It led you here to the life that you lead today. So it's a part of your story. So I want to kind of start from the very beginning.
Yeah, let's do it.
Where did you grow up? You grew up in Jersey City, is that correct?
So actually, I was born in Jersey City. I was born in the Heights in November of 1995. And it wasn't until I think 98 we moved to Lyndhurst.
Okay.
My parents bought a house. I think it was about 3. But like I say, I always say I grew up in Jersey City because most of my youth was spent in Jersey City. Since we had freshly moved out to this neighborhood we knew nothing about, we would just go right back to the old neighborhood. That's where I went for my religious meetings. That's where all the parties were. That's where the family was.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of my time in Jersey City. So I resonate with it a little bit more than...
It's a lot more cultured than Lyndhurst. Lyndhurst seems it's a lot of Italians live in Lyndhurst, right?
It was more... It's more diverse now.
Oh, really?
But, yeah. But growing up, it was strong Irish-Italian influence.
Yeah,
I
easy.
think I was like one of 2 Puerto Rican kids in my middle school.
Yeah, most of the people that I know from Lyndhurst, like that I work with and stuff, a lot of them are Italian. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older sister.
Oh, you do? How old is she? How much older than you?
She's about 7 years older than me.
You're 28? Okay.
28.
Okay, cool. Your parents play a big role in your story.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know just a little bit about them.
Sure.
Since you were born into the Jehovah's Witnesses, which is unfortunately your introduction to the world. Your parents had to have started practicing their faith before your inception. At least I would assume. How old were your parents before they had you, and when did they join the Witnesses?
So my mom was 30 when she had me, and my dad was 32. And my father is not affiliated with the Jehovah's Witness faith at all.
He never was?
Never was.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So my mom was, and my mom didn't find her faith until she was baptized in 98, so I was 3. But I think by the time I was 1, she was familiarizing herself with the faith.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I was about 3 that she went ahead and officially baptized in the faith. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer to this, but was it someone in the family that pitched the idea to join the Jehovah's Witnesses to your mom? I was going to say both, but I had no idea that only one was and not the other, which is very strange, especially being that your parents are still together to this day. I didn't know that a Jehovah's Witness could live a life like that. Usually everybody's got to be down or you're not, you're not down at all. So that's weird. I really didn't even know that. So I was going to ask, is anyone else in your family, being immediate grandma or whatever, or was it only your mom that was a Jehovah's Witness?
So the way my mom came to find her faith is the Jehovah's Witness faith was very prominent in Hudson County. Then, inner city, the houses are a lot closer together.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of suburb. Jehovah's Witnesses were primarily like in droves there. They were familiar with it, but they never really gave it any attention.
Yeah.
My great uncle, my dad's uncle, is practicing Jehovah's Witness still to this day.
Really?
Yeah. And he studied with my dad when my dad was a little bit younger.
Okay.
My dad was maybe in his early 20s. And then something happened where my dad was like, I don't want to do this. But the way my mom found it was just what Jehovah's Witnesses are known for. Just
so the good old-fashioned
knocking on doors.
By chance. Wow.
Yeah. She knew about it, but it wasn't until this particular woman knocked on her door.
Charismatic, I assume.
Yeah, and kind of just asked her the right questions for her that were relevant to her in her life. And she started a Bible study, and that was it.
Isn't that funny, that stuff? I believe in Spanish, they call it labia. That's a very, the gift of gab, if you will.
Yeah.
How much if you say the right things in the right tones in the right way to the right person, you could almost make them do anything, which kind of leads to the grand scheme of things known as Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of that type of stuff.
I think like most cults, you know, the leaders of most cults have like the most like charisma.
Yeah.
Like they're not
of
like
course.
These creepy, weird dudes, man. There's these guys that you feel like
they're confident.
You can resonate with them. They're so knowledgeable and they set a tone, you know?
When I was growing up, I didn't know much about them. You know, to me, they were just like annoying Bible thumpers, you know, who went door to door trying to convert people, you know, into their religion, being like pests, like flies that would not go away, you know. But I truly didn't know how psychotic it all really was, you know. It's absolutely a cult in every sense of the word, a sick cult.
No, it's definitely like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
I think the number one way, I always have this joke, is I think the number one way to tell how a cult is when they tell you that they're not a cult.
Yeah.
That's when you hear somebody within a faith, it's like and they say, you know, there's other religions that do this, but we do it this way, but we're not a cult. Yeah. Cults usually have a leader. We don't have a leader.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, totally. Before we focus on you, I want to explain to all the listeners what a Jehovah's Witness actually is, along with like a little bit of history on it. And I want to point out the major differences that differentiates it from regular normal Christian faith, rather, to, as opposed to Jehovah's Witness. I'm going to give it a crack myself. Because before I was going to decide to do this podcast with you, I was like, you know what? I want to brush up and really get to know what this group is really all about before we sit down so I can get more of an understanding on it. And to be honest, I was kind of shocked. I had no idea, what it was like. But anyway, I did a little bit of brief research, so I'm going to give a crack at it. And if I miss anything, and if you could dumb down anything I mentioned to make it a little more understandable, you can go at it after. Cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. So I did a little research, and it seems, at least to me in my perception, it seems there are similarities of this religion to Scientology. And what I mean by that is how it was formed and basically started by one man or one group of individuals curating their own interpretation of certain beliefs and ideologies. I was reading that the Jehovah's Witnesses started at the end of the 19th century out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, from a small group of Bible students. They analyzed the Bible and compared the doctrines that most churches taught with what the Bible, quote unquote, actually teaches. One figure's name that came up all the time was a part of said group, and his name was Charles Taze Russell.
Yeah, that's correct.
So in my brief research, I found out he was the first editor and founder of the Watchtower publications, and I believe he was the unofficial founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, although when he was alive, he didn't necessarily have a name for it. It was more just like a Bible study movement. The president under Russell was named Joseph Rutherford. He then named it the Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931 after Russell's death. Watchtower to this day continues to publish Bibles and documentation on the behalf of the Jehovah's. In present times, there are 8 men who make up the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, in which all witnesses are expected to obey their instructions and doctrines that are believed to be the voices of God on earth, which I find hilarious. Did I get a good gist of the history and what they are to an extent? Was that kind of it?
No, yeah, kind of just hit everything on the head.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's crazy to me. A lot of it made me giggle, and it made me sad at the same time.
Yeah, it's not until you, I guess in my case, until you're out and then you start reading it where you kind of look at it and you go,
whoa.
Yeah, it just makes you think you believed that for so long. You know?
Yeah, but we'll get into this later, but it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't choose it. So
no.
We'll get into that later, but let's go over the key points and differences to normal Christianity. Now, I'm not going to break down the normal practices of Christianity because the general consensus, the general population knows exactly what that is. Most people that are listening to this are familiar with or once were, because once again, you're born into that too. So let's go over the key differences. It's wild. I'm going to let you share some of the top ones that are differences between the two, and then I'll add what I found in my research that also made me giggle. So what to you are like the main differences between the two religions?
I think it's one of the main things that is very different that I guess they're known for is not celebrating holidays.
Yes. Which is weird.
Yeah. I think a thing that kind of makes it very different is that it's Bible based, but it's I feel like Catholics, when I read into that, having like a monthly magazine is something that I hadn't seen most places had.
The Watchtower.
The Watchtower, yeah. I think the differences also lie just within the disciplinary actions of most. Some people have a confession box. Some people have, different means of disciplinary actions of when you break said laws. Just the doctrine itself too, and the interpretation of what certain things mean in the Bible is definitely, it's viewed very differently from different religions.
Originating from the teachings of Russell and his Bible group. So when I was reading about it, I have a list here, and I'll rattle this stuff off of like the stuff that I was seeing about it. They don't believe in the Holy Trinity. Jesus is not God.
Nope.
The Holy Spirit is not a person, but it is an active force. They don't believe Christ was physically resurrected, but they believe he established his kingdom in heaven invisibly, almost like more of just a spirit. He didn't come back like the Christianity believes him to. He died on a tortured stake, not on a cross.
Yep.
God has a spirit body and is only present in one place at a time, as opposed to them saying he's everywhere. He's God is everywhere at all times. They believe him only to be specifically in one place at one particular moment, which is contrary to Christianity. Here's my favorite. This is probably my favorite one out of all of them. Only 144,000. Such a specific fucking number.
There it is.
This is the most ridiculous shit I ever heard in my life. Yeah. Only 144,000 people will go to heaven, while most of the saved will live on paradise earth for eternity.
Yeah.
The unsaved, they don't believe in eternal hell either.
Nope.
The unsaved will just die, be demolished and annihilated, and that's it. There's no eternal hell. That's it. Done deal. Every Christian denomination other than theirs is rejected and false.
Yep, that's where the cultish thinking comes in.
The constant pushing and fear of the apocalypse in everyone's upbringing. That fear of the end of days. That's what they focus on so much. Only the 144,000 can partake in the Lord's Supper. They don't accept blood transfusions, no matter the sickness, no matter anything. They don't believe in war, which is good. That's probably the best thing I've ever read.
Yeah.
They don't want you to vote.
No.
You cannot vote. They don't celebrate, like you said before, Christmas, Easter, birthdays, that's insane to me.
Yeah.
You can't celebrate a birthday. They shun people who leave, obviously. And you can't read any anti-Watchtower literature in fear of the negative outlook on the other Jehovah's Witnesses.
Not even Watchtower literature, just any form of religious literature you cannot.
Other than your own,
yeah.
You can't be speculative. You can't have a mind of your own. You can't think.
Free thinking is something that's really not permitted. That's the one thing that really kind of got me Yeah.
Well, there's many more. I mean, I just rattled off just some of the stuff. I don't really want to sit here for 2 hours on that, but it was pretty shocking to me because, like I said, as a kid, I just viewed them as this and that's it.
Yeah.
I just thought they were like really crazy religious Christians. I didn't know that they had all this stuff. I came across another figure.
Okay.
From present day named Stephen Lett, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Oh, yeah.
The leader of the Jehovah's Witnesses governing body. I've never felt the urge to jump through a television set and beat the living shit out of somebody in my life.
You really did your fucking research.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of you.
I
Wow.
hate this motherfucker. I consider myself a person that can read others really well.
Yeah.
And hearing 5 seconds of his voices, I wanted to vomit.
Stephen Lett, man, he sounds like he has no teeth in his mouth.
He just talks like I can't
like
even.
this.
He's a fucking quack, dude. He's a fucking quack.
Yeah.
He talks to you like you're 2 years old.
Yeah.
Like it's like my son watching Blippi or something. He talks to you like he's the Jehovah's Witness Blippi. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. And the production team behind the Jehovah's Witnesses has those videos are hilarious, dude. They're
Which ones?
comical.
The animated ones?
No, not even the ones where they have live actors. And they're all like in a field somewhere. It's like, this is a fucking joke.
Oh man.
They're truly hilarious. I don't know. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, I just wanted to get the listeners up to speed in case they didn't know with what the Jehovah's Witnesses were about before we, really hit it. What was it like for you growing up as a child? What are some of the earliest memories in the early days for you?
My earliest memory, I think.
Of just growing up in general, it doesn't have to be.
Honestly, it is kind of
which
just
is sad.
within vein of that, I remember a lot of my time in my youth I spent in a suit, my earliest memories are being in a suit, Sunday morning, always being exhausted, sitting in a very quiet room, and my mom just typical Puerto Rican woman just telling me like, be quiet, because I'm a kid, It's not to say like I didn't have a childhood. Like I still pretty had a normal childhood as far as like my parents were together. I played outside. I played video games. I watched TV.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There was just a filter on all of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But my earliest memories are a lot that have a lot to do with like preaching, like going door to door, no matter what the weather was. Back then, so nowadays Jehovah's Witnesses, they only have like 2 meetings. You meet your midday meeting and you have your Sunday meeting. But when I was growing up, we had like 3 or 4 days just devoted to that. So like, for instance, like the schedule would be Sunday, you would have your meeting. Then Tuesday or Thursday, you had your Bible study. So you would meet off hours with a group, study the material together. Then Thursday, you would have your meeting. You'd have your meeting, your midweek meeting. And then Saturday, you would have preaching. And preaching was from like 8 a.m. till whenever you stopped. And you can go as far as 12, or you can go as far as just whenever you decided that's when you were going to stop.
Wow.
Yeah. So most of my youth was spent running around the Kingdom halls and always being in a room with just well-dressed people.
Yeah. Were you allowed to interact and hang out with any kids that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, or were you really like funneled to only hang out with people that practice the same faith?
It was encouraged mainly to hang out with people that were within your faith. But, I had a lot of school friends. I'm a very talkative person naturally. But as far as like going over this one's house or, hanging out with this one after school, that's where it kind of got like, I couldn't do that. Because
you also had your own routine as a Jehovah's Witness. Like you just said, like every day you did the same thing or whatever, or a different thing. But it was always aligned with, this like routine and daily schedule.
Yeah.
Were you living in fear every day? Because, the Jehovah's Witness constantly push that the end is near, the end of days. I couldn't imagine being a kid and getting fed that shit every fucking day.
Well, the thing is too, is it's very sugar-coated in the sense that like when you're a kid, I can't even say that I was afraid, only because I was sold on the fact that I was going to live in this beautiful paradise earth. I was going to have my entire family, and I was going to play with animals. And because they had a book called My Book of Bible Stories. Yeah. And it was for kids, and it was like a simplified English version of, make sure you don't do this or make sure you don't do that. It was just Bible stories, but the whole end result was like, you'd see a picture of like, it looks like War. That movie, was it War in Little Tokyo? Like just like fire on buildings and people screaming and cars on fire.
It's mayhem and chaos.
Yeah. And you turn the page and it's this beautiful garden oasis with water and people are eating fruit and lions and lambs are together hanging out. And, so when you're a kid, you're drawn to more of like the colors and you're more drawn to like, okay, I just have to be really good so I can get this. So I wouldn't say like I was very fearful, but it was almost like, okay, one day I'm going to have a pet tiger and I'm going to swim and I'm never going to get old or I'm never going to be sad, which to a kid sounds amazing. But it wasn't until I got older that I was like, that's really manipulative.
This shit makes me sick. I, like I mentioned earlier, I'm an emotional guy, so I apologize in advance, but all this stuff hits different with me now that I have a child.
Yeah.
And just hearing that this stuff is being preached to thousands of kids as they're growing up.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be worrying anything about religion or any of this stuff. They should just worry about being them.
Being kids. Yeah.
And finding out who they are and growing up just as natural, healthy kids. And to hear that, it really makes me fucking sick. You know what I mean? To just in general, like to tell a pure, innocent, loving and growing, affectionate kid that the Armageddon is near and here's what you have to do so you don't die a horrible death like the rest of that's such traumatic shit. And obviously it clearly damages these people for the rest of their lives. Even if they're still in the Jehovah's Witnesses, they're these brainwashed robotic robots now. It's sickening.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like I said, it's very manipulative in the sense that it's very spoon-fed to you. It's not like
you're getting brainwashed.
Yeah, it's not like they're screaming and they're like, this is what's going to happen. But, it at least I've learned with my time spent that like it was more focused on, let's see what the end result of this is, rather than the fire, the fury, the death of everyone you love, the mass genocide.
Okay.
Although they do touch on it though. There's been definitely different talks. That's what like their sermons are called, talks, where some of the governing body people, they get a little graphic and they say, and it wasn't until I was older that they started doing that. Because when I was a kid, it was all about like, if we keep persisting, we're going to live forever and you're never going to be sick and you're going to see your dead loved ones again. And
which is sick. It's lies.
Yeah.
It's all fucking lies.
Absolutely. And it wasn't until like maybe as I got older, like 15, 16, that they were like, hey, you know what? No, the reality is there's going to be a lot of bodies and you have to do what you got to do. And some people that you don't expect to be there are going to be there. Like, let's just say like somebody who was barely at the meetings or barely preaching, they could be there. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or someone who was always there must have been doing something that they're not there. So it's, the whole thing is just like, it's like a Rubik's Cube, honestly.
Yeah. And for kids like yourself, it's not your fault and you didn't choose that, right? But the adults that go into the Jehovah's Witnesses as adults, clearly they're targeting very, very weak-minded people that can't think for themselves. Very vulnerable individuals. And I don't mean that in any disrespect to your mother, but I mean, anybody that really would, can think for themselves and have doesn't, if you weigh out the options and really approach it in an intelligent manner, even a tenth of an intelligent manner, you would realize this doesn't really add up. It doesn't, to fall fully for it is weird,
I think most religions tend to prey on the meek.
Oh,
like that's
most, absolutely.
Like I remember preaching and some people going to cemeteries. Like, hey, we go to cemeteries and see grieving people.
Yeah.
And remember, none of the people that are doing these things think that they're doing them maliciously. It's just the work. It's God's work. So it's viewed more in a positive light.
It's what they're taught, and it's a chain of events.
So, I wouldn't say that even just growing up, everything was just so malicious, because when you're spoon-fed it, you grow up in it, you see a lot of people, and these people they look like they're happy all the time. They look like they're happy all the time. And it kind of like really...
They do, you're right.
Think about it, man.
You're right.
It's like the happiest people. And it wasn't until I got older that I got to know people, and then I was like, oh wow, like, you know, this seems like a little like fake happiness. You know?
They're just faking the funk.
Because like at some point, you know, I think about the older people that have been in this faith since like the 40s, and now it's 2023, you're on your deathbed, and it's like, you know, you never celebrated, which is fine, you know, if you don't want to celebrate holidays, but it's like, you never went outside, you never looked in different places, you always stood in this like box.
Yeah.
And now you're dying, you know? And I think that goes hand in hand with like what my mom dealt with, because she lost her mother at a very young age, and she was very numb for a very long time. And it wasn't until she got her faith that she started to feel like a little bit more normal. Like, okay, she needed an answer because she didn't want to accept the fact that her mother was gone, and then that was it, you know? And other religions have other ways, you know, you have heaven, you have reincarnation, you have the afterlife, you have the universe, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So her version, and the one that made her most comfortable, was knowing that, hey, your mother's going to come back in the flesh, and she's going to be in the best shape of her life, and you're going to see her again. But that only happens if you persist and you are 100% within this religion and you're on your best behavior.
Yeah.
Because the second that you're not, you might have a chance of not making it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so that was something that was really big.
Well, I mean, all Jehovah's Witnesses go door to door, obviously. We touched on it briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's what they're known for. Do you remember exactly at what age specifically you started getting dragged along to participate in those acts? And approximately, if you could put a number on it, how many homes would you hit in a day? Was there like a specific requirement, like a police quota? Like,
no, but honestly, it kind of, within the police, you know how they assign two cops and they're like, all right, you guys cover downtown, you guys cover uptown, you guys cover midtown.
Yeah.
It was like that, where we would have these territories where there would be blocks, and within this little territory, that's where we had to. It wasn't like, hey, hit 100 houses today, or hey, hit 200 houses.
I was just wondering.
No, it's fine. But it was more so like, just work within these territories, because
these confinements, and that's
yeah.
Oh, okay.
What was your question before? I'm sorry.
No, that was it. Like, you know, when did you start getting dragged along? Do you remember what age?
Oh no, my entire life.
Jesus.
So I was born in 95. My mom finds it by 96. And remember, since she's practicing now, you know, me and my sister were going pretty religiously, no pun intended. But yeah,
so as soon as you could walk, basically.
As soon as I could walk, talk, like, I have pictures of, I think, my first birthday or my second birthday. I only celebrated 3 of my birthdays. I think my third one was at a McDonald's. I remember it like it was yesterday. And that was like the last one.
How old are you?
3. It was my third birthday. First 3 years. And then my mom, think about, by that time, my mom gets baptized. It's 98. And then, you know, we don't do that anymore. But since honestly, from as far as I can remember, I have always been putting on a suit. I've always been, you know, most of my childhood wasn't like little league games and stuff like that. It was, you know, preaching, knocking on doors, in the cold, hanging out with church kids. And
you went to normal public school, or did you go to?
I did, yeah. Jehovah's. I don't think they have a. They don't have.
They don't.
No, their own school.
It's not like Hebrew schools and stuff like that.
No, not yet, at least. But I went to public school, but I was very, like, in the beginning was just like, hey, you live a little bit differently than the kids that you go to school with. You know, you don't celebrate birthdays, you don't celebrate Christmas. Jesus wasn't born on Christmas. So you're 6 years old, taking the realities of life, and I think that's why a lot of us kind of like grow up really fast, because you don't have time to be like, no, Santa Claus is real, or no, the Easter Bunny, or no, not even the Tooth Fairy, you know? You're kind of told like the facts of life, like as soon as like you go to school, like, hey.
Yeah, you're forced into adulthood almost.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. You're told, you know, you live a little bit differently, you don't celebrate. And if they say, just be nice and say, you know, no, this is just what I believe.
Yeah.
But that did not hold the kids back from bullying the shit out of me.
Jesus.
Yeah. You know?
How would they bully you?
Well, you got to remember too, like I was also going door to door.
Yeah.
So it was fine
You'd
when I
probably
was
hit
younger.
their doors, right?
But it wasn't, so it wasn't until I was like 10, 11 where I was really kind of like, fuck, dude. Like I would knock on the door and like one of my schoolmates' dad would be flipping out on the person that I'm choosing to work with. And then they see they see me in the suit and, you know, hey, why did you come to my door? You know, that's weird. Or
yeah, because they don't understand.
You know, and then you try to tell them. But the thing is like, I was just telling this to my girlfriend the other day. I was just like, I was such an asshole when I was a kid because I was just like, no, Santa's not real. That's just not a thing. Like
I was going to ask you, what did you do?
7 years old, 8 years old. I thought everybody was stupid. I was just like,
yeah,
you know, because I was built up that way where I was like, I have the truth. I have the number one true religion. Your religion doesn't mean anything. I have it. I have the ticket. I have the answers. So for a long time, I kind of like looked down on people, and I
it's like a holier than thou mind state.
100%. And I felt like, you know, it was almost like I had like remorse. I was kind of like, oh, I'm so sorry that you believe. At like 12 years old, dude. When in reality, you know,
you missed out on the fun of being a kid.
Yeah.
We all know Santa's not real, but I got to tell you, now that I have a kid, seeing how excited he gets for a fictional character, it's a nice feeling.
It lights you up, you know, and my parents did their best. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't get gifts on Christmas, but like I would get gifts year round. My father was like really big on that. And my mom too. I think because of my father. My mom became very passionate very quick. And my father, I think, was a little bit of the mediator of like ease them into it. Like, you know, still have them unwrap something 2 or 3 days after Christmas. If he wants to buy a costume and dress up, just let him dress up. You know, it doesn't have to be on Halloween. So I grew up a lot differently than some of these other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, I'm shocked that it even worked out that way.
Yeah, no, I'm very grateful, honestly, for my father.
Well, I think, to my opinion, he saved your life.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I got older that when I left and I realized like, okay. But my mother, I mean, she did her best. You know, she made it work. She compromised a lot. With me, more so me. My sister, remember, we're 7 years apart. So my sister grew up with the Christmas, the Halloweens, the New Year's parties, the Easter. Like my sister grew up with all of that. Huh. So by the time she found, my mom found her faith.
That's because she's older than you, yeah.
Yeah. So by the time she found her faith, my sister was already like 9, 10, you know? So it wasn't, my sister was already definitely way more mature at that age. And it was like nothing. She was like, okay, this is what we do now. Yeah. But still moldable at that age. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But I was the only one. And I think my mom at a time said like, you know, he didn't grow up with that. You did. He doesn't know what it's like to open a gift. So my dad would always get me a gift. There's a lot of things that my mom, I'm sure, was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that. But because my dad was just like...
Shout out to your dad, yo.
Yeah, my dad's the man. For real.
Shout out to your dad.
For real.
Now that you tell me that, I realize he's a very important figure in your life. And he's probably single-handedly one of the main reasons you are who you are.
100%.
For sure. So shout out. I don't know your dad's name, but...
It's my name.
Shout out to the Puerto Rican Beacon.
We call him Jimmy.
Jimmy Jones.
Named right after him too. My sister's named after him too.
Oh yeah.
So I'm Jaime, my sister's Jamie, and my dad is Jaime.
Oh wow.
My mom's Eva.
Oh okay.
But which is funny. But yeah, the good thing about it too is that growing up, I grew up around a lot of family that wasn't practicing. So because we didn't celebrate holidays, we had barbecues all the time. Barbecues, pool parties, all the time. And that's where
you got lucky, man.
I know, honestly.
You didn't get like you still had it bad, but you got to see both sides of the coin simultaneously.
It wasn't bad until my adolescence. It wasn't until I started becoming more self-aware of myself. That's when things...
And the more intense teachings started to work their way into your life.
Absolutely. And what I experienced as I got older is what changed everything. Yeah. But as far as like my childhood, honestly, like I said, I had a great childhood. My parents were there. My mom was always in my life. My dad was. My mom was a little bit stricter on things. She used to when I didn't want to go to the Kingdom Hall or go to preaching. Oh, I remember I always used to hate Friday nights because I would be like, and she used to pull the blanket from me while I was sleeping.
Oh,
and I was like,
terrible.
Dude, to get up, to put, and it's like, when you're a kid, when you're angry, it's funny, you get less honest as you're an adult.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, you're the most honest. So I would be like, it's boring. I don't want to go. It's boring. And that to my mom was just like, how dare you?
Yeah.
But even the people in there, I grew up around some real cool people. Growing up, as far as before my adolescence, I grew up around some really good-hearted people, and some people today that still that respect me for my decision to leave, and they still they check in.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky to have my experience the way it is, but I also have had some horror stories about just being a teenager in the faith.
I'm sure, man.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you before we move a little forward, we were talking just briefly before about going door to door. How many doors got slammed in your face? Do you remember? Did that happen? How much did that happen?
A lot. It's kind of beneficial because it's you're used to rejection. So you understand at a young age what rejection feels like when.
Okay, I didn't think about it that way. That's interesting.
I mean, that's the way I see the silver lining in that. As far as I became a very confident person because I've had those doors slammed in my face.
Yeah.
But when you're a kid and you think that this is life-saving work, that no, you need to take this because if not, you're not going to make it. And someone's like, get the fuck off my porch. Bah.
Yeah.
You're and then it starts out with no, but I'm trying my best to, at least for me, you kind of get a little villainized out of it. You kind of well, fuck you. You're going to die anyways then.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
The narrative gets flipped from no, but we have life-saving work to go ahead, slam the door. You're going to die anyways.
I got you. I didn't think about it like that. When I was thinking about it, I thought it would negatively impact a young kid. Just getting constant rejection like that. That can't be, at least I thought, thinking about this, that can't be healthy. A kid is just constantly getting, boom, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to what you said, I mean, I think absolutely there's some negative aspects to it. I think now as I'm older, I'm looking at the silver lining of it. But, in those moments, you feel like shit,
Yeah, that can't be good for a young kid.
No, because it's
the developing times of your life.
You see the worst in people,
Yeah.
You see a guy just fucking pissed. He's hungover as shit. You have this old lady who's talking about Jesus. We don't know what he's going through. We don't know. And he freaks out. I've had instances where we used to preach in the Jersey City projects right by Dickinson.
Okay.
And it's a bunch of viejas, bro. And it's not, so you get scared. You go into these buildings and it's you have nothing to protect yourself. And there's people that just you knock on the door and they're screaming, what? And the dog, dude, I used to knock on those doors.
Scary.
And the second you hear that pit bull in a fucking 1-bedroom apartment.
Because that's what it is in the hood.
Yeah,
a Rottweiler or a pit bull.
Hell yeah. I could say, honestly, me personally, I don't think I've ever really reached anybody.
Okay.
I don't think and I preached for 20 years. I don't think I ever got someone that was yeah, I'll listen to what you have to say. And
I'm curious if there's a statistic out there for success rate.
I mean, I feel maybe back then, a lot more people, I feel information is so readily available and there's so much contradiction now that you just got to Google search it. And maybe in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah, maybe, right?
You didn't have any of that. So, you're in a low time in your life and somebody comes to you and does this and you're thinking to yourself, oh shit, maybe that's God. Maybe that's God telling me this is what I got to do. But
at the right time in your life, if you just so happen to, it's like a Jehovah's Witness is hitting the lottery when they go to a person's house that at the moment they just lost a family member and you just so happen to come after they get a phone call.
You hear stories about that all the time.
Yeah.
Within the weekly meetings. You hear that all.
Just coincidence. Yeah.
Just stuff that it's not till I was talking to one of my buddies who's also, he left too, one of my best friends. And we were just laughing at like, dude, some of these stories sounded so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like this guy was preaching to this couple, but he didn't have any literature on him. But then, but then he looked down and there was a tract, a watchtower by his foot. And we just made a joke. This is a real thing that somebody said. And it's a real, and me and my buddy were laughing because I'm like, can you imagine some dude's talking to you about God and then you look and he picks up a fucking piece of paper on the floor and he's like, here, take this. Like, no, it was just on the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you hear stories about like, there was a guy in a country that you don't know about and he was about to hang himself and he had the rope around his neck and the doorbell rang and he opens the door and it's a woman and he's crying and the woman's like, why are you crying? And he's like, look. And you see this noose that's very probably poorly tied. I was going to jump and now he's like, you know, he's living and thriving and he's got a family and you hear all that stuff and do people just fucking
they eat it up, dude. They love that shit.
Love it, bro. Like, oh, you were really depressed, but now this is the key to your life and now your life is amazing.
They hang on to that hope, that false fucking happiness.
I think that's the drug, dude. That's like that dopamine in your head.
Yes.
That's like what we were selling.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, like when I was in sales, I used to sell perfume. I always used to joke. I was like, I'm Jehovah's
we got to talk
Witness.
about that later. I know I'm a fragrance guru.
I could sell scissors to a bald man, you know, because like I to this day, like my girlfriend, she'll laugh and she'll be like, all right, she'll just give me a random topic and she's like, tie it into being a Jehovah's Witness. And I'll just right on the spot, just go ahead and talk about it.
You were groomed to be that way.
Yeah, dude.
That persuasive at a young age.
Yeah, dude, definitely.
Do you remember ever developing opinions on your lifestyle when you were growing up? Like obviously when you're young and you grow up into it and they're pushing these ideologies on you, telling you this is how you got to behave. And of course, at first, you're going to just go along with it and be like, okay, cool, this is who I am, this is how I do it. But then, like, at what age did you start to, like, think, like, wait, this is weird, or this doesn't make any sense, or I don't agree with this? Do you ever remember developing that type of speculation?
Yeah. It was probably, like, later.
Like when you were a lot older?
I think maybe about, like, 16 or 17.
Wow.
That's when because, you know, you live a certain way for so long and it isn't until I guess like you become more of aware of the world around you. And, you know, I'm a child of the internet and, you know, I would always hear different kids have different religions, but I would always just be like, okay, I have my faith, you have yours, whatever, we'll just go about our separate ways. But it wasn't until I read an article within the Watchtower and I'll never forget this day. I remember reading it specifically. It said, it was about the governing body, and it said, you know, we might not know what the governing body means when they give us certain rules and regulations or certain, you know, when they guide us in a different light. But we trust it because we know that they have our best interests at heart. And I remember fighting with my mom for so long because I just said, I don't agree with that. I don't understand that. What? So you're pretty much telling me, listen, even if you don't get this, just trust that everything's going to be okay. I grew up like my father. My father told me to question everything. My father questioned everything growing up. If there was a free promo, like, hey, do you want a t-shirt? My father would be like, what's the catch? He was that guy where he would ask about everything.
I can relate to that because that's who I am.
And that's who I became. You know, I asked more questions as I got older. My sister was the one that they would say, like, jump. And she wouldn't want to, but if she was like, all right. I was the one that was more so like, why do I have to jump? Why? What does it benefit me? And I think once my mom realized that, I think that's when everything started to go south. And that wasn't until I started hitting my teens. Like 12 years old, 13.
Yeah, when you start to like, your adult brain just starts to gear up.
Mm-hmm.
You start to like experience things and, you know.
Yeah.
Was there ever any point where you felt like truly isolated from the world, like around you? Like, did that ever impact your way of thought? Like, was there always this feeling of like missing out on like a normal childhood?
Yeah, I think it was more the material aspect when I was younger. You know, when I guess kids would say like they had their family over and they had presents and like I said, my parents did their best, but it still didn't, I still went through it where I kind of wanted that, and I did feel a little isolated. Whenever there was like holiday movies or parties or stuff in school, I would like just take the day, or I would just sit outside of the classroom. So I think my mom did her best to keep me from that when I was like in grade school. But once I got to like my teens, that's where it was like, you know, just go to a different room while there's a holiday party going on, or, you know.
Yeah.
I think feeling alone too, when I was younger in the second grade, they did a project on grandparents, and I don't really know my grandparents so much. And I remember my teacher saying like, well, write about your grandma. And I'm like, I never met my grandma, but I'm going to. She's going to come back and I'm going to be.
Yeah, because of what you were taught.
Yeah. And my teacher was kind of looking at me like, what? You know, I said, no, well, you know, she's going to get resurrected and there's going to be lion. And everybody in the class just like laughed.
Oh man, that must have been a weird moment.
Like, what do you mean? Like, you know, there's going to be like kids just being like, and everybody's going to come back. And my teacher just trying to be like, hey guys, maybe let's not do this, you know? And it wasn't until that I cracked the news about like Santa where everybody started turning on me. But feeling alone, I think definitely when I wanted to do like, you know, when I would get invited to a birthday party, like a kid and all of his friends in my class are going to go watch a movie, or they're going to go to Sports World. Shout out to Sports World.
It's Route 17, baby.
Dude. I was just talking about that shit the other day. But I just couldn't go, you know?
That sucks. You missed out on your childhood.
I would also say like on my birthday when nothing would happen, you know? Like my dad would say happy birthday, and my mom would always say happy born day, happy VIP day, it's your day. But there were times where like I had a birthday and like nothing was happening, where I was kind of just like,
you didn't feel special anymore.
No, I didn't. And even to this day, man, like my girlfriend, she planned such a beautiful weekend for us. And I tell her like, I love it, but it's really hard for me to think you did all of this because you love me. It's hard to think that like, oh, I deserve this. Like, go ahead, have fun, do your thing.
Yeah.
You know, because.
Yeah, you got robbed of it.
100%.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah.
Sorry that I'm sorry you went through that.
Yeah, no. I mean, you know, as you get older, you kind of just, you know, you have no choice but to just get through it, you know?
Yeah, keep your head up, keep moving forward, be strong.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because you know what, man? I'm 28 now, and from this point forward, I could change. You know, I went and I celebrated my birthday, and I finally just like let like that conditioning off. Like I'm not, listen, man, I'll celebrate your birthday like it's no tomorrow. It's your birthday. Guess what, bro? We're fucking going out. I'll plan all this shit.
But it's yours. That
when it's mine, nobody talk to me, nobody look at me, because I'm just like, I just don't want to,
because of the trauma you've been through.
Yeah. Honestly,
it's scarring, man. It's going to be tough for you to shake it. It's not that you can't shake it. It's going to take years.
Even celebrating holidays, man. Like, celebrating Christmas, like the official way.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend, we're celebrating Christmas this year, and I'm kind of like nervous.
I don't blame you for being nervous, but
like I get a knot in my throat because I've been conditioned so much to think like this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. So like it gets to a point where like I can see myself having fun, but then just like taking a minute to like breathe, because in the back of my head, I hear my mom, and I hear
it's natural.
Like, you know what you're doing is wrong. You know, you shouldn't be doing this. You know that this is wrong. You know, Jehovah doesn't like this. And, you know, that was the big thing too. Like just growing up, like just thinking that at 7 years old, you know, I was told a lot that if I persisted, my whole family would be saved.
Yeah.
So when you're 7,
your family means everything to you, obviously.
The dog, you know,
it's everything to you.
So I think to myself, like, I have to do this, because if not, my dad, who isn't practicing, isn't going to get a ticket in. My uncle, that I love to death, who isn't practicing, is going to get a ticket in.
That's sad, man. That's really fucking sad.
Yeah.
That's really sickening.
Yeah.
That stuff bothers me so much. And like I said, all of this stuff hits differently with me now because I have a seed, I have a son. And, you know, we'll get into that later, but I don't, I was brought up Roman Catholic or Catholic, whatever. Doesn't matter. Now I don't identify with any of it.
Okay.
But I was baptized, confirmed, went to CCD, the whole nine. My son is not baptized. Me and my wife comes from a Christian family.
Okay.
Catholics and Christian are different.
Yeah.
Christians are definitely a lot more freer.
There's not so much of an emphasis on going to hell.
Yeah.
Than a Catholicism.
So Catholicism's a little cultish as well. And I have my problems with them too. But my wife and I both are on the same page, and it just naturally flowed that way. I shared my views on it, and like I said, I'll touch on it later, but my life changed when my mom passed away, and I went the opposite. Some people go to religion. I went against it.
Yeah.
But my son, one of the problems we had when we conceived him, we were thinking, like, what are we going to do? Are we going to baptize him like I was, or you don't believe in that? What do we do, And we decided not to do anything. If my son ever gets older and he decides he wants to choose a faith, I'll support anything he wants to do. But I feel like people should be baptized when they know what it is and they can do it.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a baby and you can't make the decision on your own, if you identify with it, because look what happened. You grew up, and you're not a Jehovah anymore.
Yeah. And the thing is I got baptized in the faith at late.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Maybe I got confirmed late. I was 17.
Oh.
And I have my own story about like why, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I was like the full 9, man. I was like,
you were in
the full 9, and it wasn't until like I think 18 to 20 was like, yeah, that's where I really, really fell off. So,
okay, yeah, it's a very interesting topic, but so that brings me to this. One of the most disgusting and sinful acts any human could ever do is grooming and child molestation. Just like Catholicism, pedophilia and molestation runs, rampant through the Jehovah's Witnesses as well. And I didn't know that until I did my research, that it was equally as shocking in that style. You hinted to me when we talked briefly earlier in the week that you were involved in something like this, in the past. And unfortunately, if you're comfortable, would you want to touch on what you were actually trying to, the message you're trying to convey to me and what you meant?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm actually talking about it more kind of helps me understand that, it happened, and not that I have to like so much like move on from it, but I can like just talk about it and not internalize it, because I did for a very, very long time. But yeah, I was sexually groomed at 15.
By who?
By a friend of my sister's that was about 8 years older than me.
Really?
Yes, sir.
A female?
Yes. Yeah. It was one of those things that, because it got swept under the rug so much, I just thought I treated it as if she was just like an ex-girlfriend.
Huh.
But it wasn't until like I went to therapy that the therapist like stopped everything she was doing and was like, we need to talk about this right now, because you were groomed.
And you didn't even know.
And you didn't even know. You're treating this like she's your ex-girlfriend. Like, we had our time, but But like, no, I was 15,
How long did this go on for?
Just a couple of months,
Did your sister know?
No, nobody knew. My sister was, I think she was engaged at that point. So my sister's brain was just her wedding.
Because she was in her 20s. You're 15.
Yeah.
How old was this girl again?
She was 23.
She was your sister's friend.
She was my sister's good friend. Really good friend.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So What was her approach? When your sister was away with her fiance, was she like coming over the house or something? Or
It wasn't until it wasn't. I think the thing that makes me think that I know I was groomed is because, you know, like that's the thing groomers tell people. It's like, you're very mature for your age. We would spend time together in a group setting. You know, she had a boyfriend at the time. And you know, her relationship wasn't working out. And it wasn't until my mom got Broadway tickets to go see a Beatles tribute band. And my sister was definitely not going to go with me because my sister...
She doesn't like that stuff?
Yeah, but me and my sister weren't ever really like close like that. Like it wasn't like, yeah, I'll go and do this. You know, she was kind of... 7 years is a big gap. So
huge interests, all that.
When I'm in kindergarten, she's graduating, going to high school. Like it, you know, I was in 6th grade when she graduated college. I was in 8th grade when she graduated.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. So what seemed innocent was, you know, my sister's friend saying, you know what, I'll go. And it seemed pretty normal because that's what, you know, it's just a nice act of like, oh, you want to go? I like the Beatles. Sure, maybe I'll go.
Yeah.
We go to that, and I've always been told I was an old soul for the longest of time. Only because I have so much interest in like music, oldies, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that by the way I carried myself was very attractive to her. Her relationship wasn't going the best. And then you have this kid who's bright-eyed and he has so much thoughts on like music and he loves like art and he loves this and that. And I don't know at what point it got to her to like, oh, I have a crush on this kid. I'm going to pursue this kid. But
literally a kid.
Yeah, literally a kid. But it wasn't until after that then we spent more time texting, we spent more time hanging out, and it was like, I think that was the first time, honestly, like I was such a prude growing up that was the first time that like a girl was giving me attention, an attractive girl was giving me attention. You know, we liked all the same things, you know, and it started to develop into like a relationship where we were talking on the phone every night, and we would, you know, if she drove somewhere, we would hold hands. And, you know, it's so crazy because I think to myself, I look young now.
You do.
At 15, I look like I was like 6 years old. A baby,
I can imagine. You sent me a picture the other day. You looked very young in that picture. I don't know how old you were.
Yeah. But no, even that picture, I was like 18, 19.
Yeah, you looked young.
Yeah. So picture of like 4 years, subtract, you know, 4 years from that. We would hold hands. We would go to concerts. It was like a summer of like just And then it started getting a little physical, where, you know, we would do some stuff, and you know, and for a while I was just brainwashed because I just thought she was my girlfriend. You know, like I honestly, at the time, I thought I was like cool, you know, because I was like, I got so much game. Look at me. I pulled.
Oh, most you know, men, kids would think that way.
It's a double standard.
Yeah, very.
You know, honestly, because the disciplinary actions that happened to her versus my sister that was in a similar situation, but not as graphic as mine and more of like an emotional, was it completely different. I'll get into that, but you know, it was, I don't know, man, like once it started getting a little physical, and it was like, I felt like somebody wanted me in a way that I hadn't been wanted before. And I was attracted to it, and I craved it because it was like,
well, you're going through hormonal changes on top of that.
Dude, I'm 15, bro. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Your hormones are all over the place.
And to my mom's, I wouldn't say her ignorance. I would say more of like, just, she would never think that would happen. And I don't blame her, because it's like, dude, like, he's 15. Like, at what point would something like this happen?
Yeah.
I started to feel like, like we were in a relationship. I started to feel like this was normal, but I couldn't tell anybody. We would hold hands. We would go to the movies. We would do all this stuff. And that was like an awesome summer. And I'm like over here, like thinking that this is cool. And it wasn't until my dad caught whiff of it.
Oh, yeah?
Not from me, but from her.
Your dad again, man.
My dad was just kind of like, there was a barbecue and me and her were kind of like in the corner, like talking. And
he knows the vibes.
Yeah. And right away he was like, and he told my mom, he's like, you need to go check this shit out because I think this girl's in love with JR. And my mom was like, like any parent, like the Jehovah's Witness filter is like, you wouldn't expect that because we all think the same and we all know that.
You're so blinded.
Exactly. So to her, it was like, no. It's like a big brother, it's like a big sister, little brother thing. Jamie's moving on. She's close. But my father was the first one to be like, you need to go investigate that because it literally, she's getting too giddy around our son. It looks like she's a little girl. Like she's so happy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like my mom confronted me about it.
And you were honest, obviously, I would assume.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, no.
Because I wasn't. Because I was, there is a sense of like, okay, this is kind of wrong.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough for me so my mom was telling me like, look, she might have a little bit of a crush on you. We're trying not to do that. And then that's when I thought it was so normal that I was like, look, Mom, I like her. She liked me. We talked about it. And my mom was like, what did you just say? Like, it was kind of just like, whoa, wait. And I was like, what are you freaking out about? And my mom's just like, and then my mom tried to put out that fire and was just like, you need to like, she didn't think anything physical had happened. And there were some things that physically happened and that like, I feel like it shouldn't have, I should have probably just been with someone like my age.
Yeah, but you those situations, you're young.
Yeah.
You make decisions that aren't the wisest.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily your fault.
Yeah.
You were, like you said, groomed.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's nothing to be, it's not your fault.
I think what kind of like makes me look back, and this is where I get like emotional about it, because I was just like, I think to myself, like, I was just like a kid.
Literally.
You know what I mean? Like I was 15. I spent my time around a lot of adults. So I just thought and acted like one. But the reality is I still had that innocence of like, I didn't know how the world worked. And I think for someone to take advantage of that, because I can't think of it as like, okay, well, we were both wrong. Because I feel like at 15, like you can consent all you want, dude, but at the end of the day, like you're 15 years old. Like there's something wrong with somebody that's 23 pursuing someone that's 15.
Yeah.
Whether that 15-year-old is like, willingly take me, there's just still something wrong with that. You still have to get to a point in your brain where you're looking at that and saying like, no, I'm going to definitely pursue this 15-year-old.
Yeah.
So what happens is that we came up with this deal.
What, you and your mother?
No, me and my groomer.
Oh, okay.
That she was going to wait for me until I turned 18. And then once I turned 18,
then it'd be okay.
Then it would be okay. We can come out. But at that point, we had already been dating for 3 years. And I was about it. And then when the reason everything like shit hit the ceiling is because I left my phone in the bathroom and my mom came and she took it.
And she saw it.
And she went through all the text messages and saw like, I love you. I'm going to be with you. I can't wait to see you.
Hispanic woman seeing that, forget about it, bro.
Sheesh.
Diablo.
But that's where like everything got blown off. And even to this day, like it wasn't treated like I was being groomed. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, this is wrong. This needs to stop. So my mom I guess it just, she came up to my room and my mom like lost it on me. And I think like I look back and it just used to hurt me a lot because I'm just like, at the end of the day, like I thought for a long time that it was my fault. I thought for a long time, like, you know, my mom, you know, would say like, you know, you knew what you were doing. And like, yeah. But at the end of the day, dude.
You don't.
You don't.
You do, but you don't. You know what's going on.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
I had a preconceived notion of like, I thought I knew everything at that age. And
that's the problem with having you around adults all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's the problem with doing what they did, the teachings and
well,
stuff.
Yeah,
They're not letting a kid be a kid.
Yeah.
And this is the problem.
You know, growing up at a very young age, just seeing the world in a different way is what made me grow up pretty fast. Just mentally, in different aspects. But, you know, it's something that like I now talk about it a little bit more because I was silenced for so long. And the way it was handled, I just don't agree with. Because when something like that happens, it has to get reported to the faith.
Really?
Yeah, it has to, because they have to know like, hey, this stuff can't happen.
Is that what your mother did?
No, we kind of just, my mom didn't want to involve try to like, you know, I don't want to involve this. I think, I don't know, maybe she was looking out for my groomer because I was the groomer was the daughter of somebody that was high up.
Also, wait.
Not governing body, but within our community.
So the groomer,
yeah,
was also a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, yeah, no, 100%.
Oh, wow.
I left that part out. Whoops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, that person I met when I was like 12 years old.
And that's interesting because usually when you hear of child molestation within the Jehovah's Witness community, it's usually a man grooming a little boy, just like it is in Catholicism.
Yeah.
This is really unique because it's a female grooming a boy.
Yeah.
Which nowadays, even now, these teachers are getting arrested a lot for having sex with kids. And the first, like you said, double standard. The first thing all men say is, damn, I wish I was the one.
Where was she when I was in high school?
But the thing is until it happens to you when you are a little boy, you will never know what damage that truly does to a kid.
Yeah.
It's different when a 15-year-old is messing with another 15-year-old. Yeah. It's still wrong, but you understand it and it doesn't damage the kid mentally. This is totally a different ball game.
Yeah.
And it's not, you know, the grass isn't always greener on the other side in that aspect.
No. I think so my mom had a whole sit down with me and the girl and pretty much in a very polite way told my groomer, hey, we know that this has been going on and we would like it to stop, which was so different from the response that I got. You know, my mother freaked out on me. And, you know, now she's telling the woman that preyed on a 15-year-old kid, like, hey, look, the day, we don't want to involve anybody else. We just want this to stop. And
that's probably due to her dad or whatever parent being a higher up.
Yeah. And I think just her also being a Jehovah's Witness too.
Like a mutual tribal respect.
Kind of, yeah. Kind of, because if this was a teacher, if this was a neighbor, that my mom would have been all hands on deck. You know, my mom would have came in guns blazing, but because it was someone that she sees every Thursday, she knows her father, it was kind of like swept on. In all, the whole thing was kind of like swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And from that point forward, it was like, okay, just delete his number and that's it. It's over. And we had a little bit of conversation after, but more so it was like, no, I think we need to respect this, blah, blah, blah.
And it was done from that point.
It was done from that point. But here's the thing that gets me like choked up. She was never banned from my house.
What?
She was never banned. So after that, it was like, hey, we swept this under the rug. It's back to normal. My sister, who knew, would still have her over. She was in my sister's wedding that I was in. She was in.
Why would your mom allow that?
Just goes back to the whole her being a Jehovah's Witness.
What the?
And I think just the double. I think just the double standard. Honestly, I don't want to speak too much for my sister's case, but I'll condense it. My sister became emotionally involved with a married man that was about 10 years older than her. When she was,
this gets even crazy.
I know there's a lot of layers. When she was like 17, nothing physical happened, but he did promise my sister like, hey.
And how old was this married man in comparison to your sister?
My sister was 17. He was 31.
Jesus fucking. So you both were groomed.
Yeah. And, he told my sister, like, I want to be with you. I want my wife, I'm going to leave my wife for you.
Jesus Christ.
To the point where my sister's best friend at the time and her husband were trying to like knock my sister and him, like kind of like, oh, we're all going to hang out, a bunch of us, but then it would just be like them four. Or we went on a vacation where he was with us and my mom would take, because again, my mom didn't think anything of it. And it wasn't until my sister got
completely oblivious.
Yeah, because again,
in denial.
You don't expect that because they're all Jehovah's Witnesses.
Man,
they believe the same thing you believe. And it's kind of like that ignorance is bliss where you think they wouldn't do that because they have the same teachings and they know that's wrong. So why would they do that?
Just ignorant.
Yeah. And my sister ended up telling my mother, like, look, I don't know, is this, and my mother lost her shit. Guy was banned. I haven't seen the guy since I was a kid.
But you weren't banned.
But in the different context, not only was I a younger kid, my sister was 17, I was 15. There was physical things that happened. That person was still in my life. And
she wasn't banned.
No,
but
no.
Your sister's situation, that person was banned.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So it really kind of, that's where I think it fucks with me a lot. Where when I was talking about it in therapy, I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit. Like this person was around like for most of my life. And even when I dated other girls, we would still hang out. We would carpool. We would do all that stuff because I told you, like, I treated her like she was an ex-girlfriend.
And that didn't screw your head up. It had to have.
I mean, now it does.
Seeing her every day. What did your father have to say after this? Did that conversation you had with your mother, did she tell your father about it all? Or did she not?
So I think...
Because he's the one that told her to check it out.
Yeah. I don't think she really kind of told him the ins and outs, but just so much like, hey, we spoke about it. They both have an understanding. We got it out. That's it.
Okay.
So
nothing more, nothing less. Just straight up.
Just straight up, like, and that's the thing too, man. Like I said, like, because I grew up going, like, my earliest memories is being a Jehovah's Witness, going to Kingdom Hall and stuff. I never really saw my dad. Like,
even though he lived in the same house.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you were always out knocking door to door.
I was on a schedule.
And you were going to church, he wasn't.
When I was going to church, he wasn't. By the time I get home, he'd be in bed.
What did he identify as? Did he follow any religion at all?
Nah.
How did that, it's remarkable that marriage worked.
I think it was just a mutual respect from my mom.
So strange.
And the sanctity of marriage is very, very strict in Jehovah's Witness faith, where, my mom found out while she was married, they're not going to tell her to go divorce, no
matter the circumstance.
No matter the circumstance. And that's the other part that's kind of messed up. But my father was always, because to him, he didn't really know the ins and outs. He just said, oh, look, you're believing in something. You're being in a group of positive people. They're very nice. They come to the house. They say hello. They're very accommodating. Well, why not? If you don't really have any knowledge of that and you just see like a bunch of nice people that are following Bible scripture, he's not going to question it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until like, I think I was a kid where like my father, it started to take a little bit of a toll on him because like, he would never see his kids
or his wife.
And so like, I remember one time, like my mom was freaking out at him because I was doing bad in school and he clapped back with like, well, why are you telling me this? Go tell the guys that he sees at the church. Why are you telling me this? They see him more than I do. Go tell him.
Touche.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. But going back to my situation, it wasn't until I got out that I realized that I was groomed. Like, and I mean like up until this year when I started going to therapy that I realized that I was groomed. You know?
Yeah, you were blind to it. You didn't realize.
I think the part that like breaks my heart the most is that like nobody really asked me how I felt about it. Once it was done, it was like you know, see no evil, hear no evil. It was just like, all right, that's done. Move on. It wasn't like, hey, how do you feel about that?
That's not how emotions work.
What?
That's not how that stuff. It's stored forever.
Yeah.
It'll depict how you're going to be.
Yeah. And I suppressed it for a very, very long time up until this year. That's when I mainly just realized what had happened to me and understood that like whichever way you see it, whichever way I see it, whichever way my groomer sees it, I was groomed. And I remember asking my mother, you know, what is your peace of mind in this situation when you think of this? Because do you see this as like, oh, this person's a pedophile. Oh, this person. Yeah. And, you know, my mother was like, you know, I just think at the end of the day, like, you know, we're not perfect and someone is just so immature that they were looking for it. And I said, it doesn't matter which way you look at it. At the end of the day, it's still a grooming case. Somebody 8 years younger than me. And I think to myself, once I turned 18, and that's the day we said we were going to be together and all this shit, I was thinking to myself the other day, I was like, dude, I was such a shithead at 18. Like, I can't imagine getting married.
Oh, of course not.
To somebody 8 years older than me at 18. But I think because nobody really, it was really swept under the rug, man. Like, we did not want this to get out, and it never did.
Because it would have caused fury within the church.
Yeah, it would have caused fury within the faith of people, because it's like, okay, is this a case? Do we have to alert the authorities? What exactly happened? This is a child endangerment case, which a lot of stuff like that gets swept under the rug.
It's all pretty ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because tons of those cases happen within the faith.
Yeah, 100%, you know, and when all that stuff started coming out, I was already out. But, and funny enough, that was all before I got baptized.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that might have been a stepping stone to you getting baptized, as far as like, you know, I need to cleanse myself or.
Yeah. I mean, I think I got baptized for the reasons of like, I didn't have much going for me. You know, my sister at that point was the first one
out of the house.
Out of the house. She got married. She got a good degree. First one in my family ever to go to college. And I didn't have anything going for me. So I guess I just wanted to feel something. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't good at school.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't having colleges want me. So I guess I just wanted to feel something. And that's what you do as a Jehovah's Witness is you stay in long enough until you're like, all right, I'll just get baptized.
Yeah.
You know, and you go through a series of questions and you go through a series of all these things. But it wasn't until after I got baptized that everything like went downhill. And this is even like post grooming and everything, because at that point you got to remember I was just suppressing it all.
Yeah.
You know, after I got baptized, that's when I really was like, I don't think this is it.
That's when like most of the realizations kicked in.
Yeah. I was living what they call a double life, which is like really frowned upon. That means you're Jehovah's Witness by day, but the second the sun is down,
you had 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah. Second the sun's down, you're smoking, drinking, kissing.
Well, that's because, you know, you're getting older. Your brain is maturing. You've been through all this stuff, been through the grooming, been through, you know, you're seeing world from the outside looking in. You're seeing it from the inside looking out. Mm-hmm. You're just realizing like, you know, I don't know if this is what I want. I don't know if this is real. Mm-hmm. And you know, you're developing you know, you're finding yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess after the baptism, it was like awakening for you. Like, I don't know if this is what I really want to do.
It sucked because like once I got excommunicated, you only get excommunicated if you get baptized.
Really?
Yeah. So like if I never got baptized, I wouldn't face all the discipline that I am facing currently.
So when did you actually decide you wanted to leave? So you said it happened after your baptism, right?
Yeah.
How much longer after? And what was your age exactly again? You said 17 when you got baptized.
It was April of 2013. So I was 17 and I left by July of 2016.
Took that long.
Yeah, because, I think that...
Were you just battling mentally? Or,
yeah, just teetering.
Or was it the process that they didn't let you leave that easy?
I think it was just more so like my mom,
Yeah. Okay. Tug of war.
Yeah, because they don't really try to keep you from leaving. It's almost like if you want to go, go, but don't expect.
That's interesting. I would have think it would have been the other way.
No, that's the thing. Like, it wasn't so much like
the only good thing they're good for.
I know. And really good hospitality.
Yeah.
Really good food. I think for me, that those 3 years when everything started to go down, I also had a lot of downfalls once I was a teenager. And when you're younger, it's a little bit easier because you get put in a room with a bunch of kids and you're cool with them because you guys are the same height. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't until I could just not fit anywhere. I couldn't fit anywhere, dude. I got together with this one group of young people, and they encourage that. They say, you know what, find other brothers and sisters your age and resonate with them because you guys all all centrally believe the same thing. But honestly, I got treated like shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There was a group of kids that were they were so group focused, and they got to know me, and those people that I thought it was just very snake type shit. They were really cool with me. They thought I was funny. But the second I left, they were just saying so much rumors and telling people I was gay because I made jokes and I did things differently. Even when I was in the faith, I did things differently. I always wore my hair different. My suits were always fitted when they told you not to.
So you always subconsciously weren't really there.
Yeah, pretty much. You
always knew there was something more for you than that.
Yeah, and I think it wasn't. I mustered up the courage to do it later on, but had I been given the chance, I probably would have left when I was 16. Yeah. I told my mom one time that I wanted to leave at 16.
And being gay is very frowned upon in the Jehovah's Witness community.
100%.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay, but with them, I know they don't like that very much.
Yeah. Even to this day.
Most religions don't.
Yeah. Even the nicest Christians don't like gay people.
Yeah.
I think it's just they don't like the act of being gay. But my mom...
Although it went on since the Bible times.
Oh, yeah.
Being gay is nothing new.
No, it's in
written. Roman days.
It's literally written in the Bible.
The Greek bathhouses.
Yeah.
This has been going on forever.
For a long time.
I mean,
so
it's pretty comical that people hate it so deeply.
Yeah.
It's one thing to poke fun at it because you're not familiar with it, but to actually throw hate at people who are gay is absolutely fucking stupid and ignorant.
Yeah, I just don't see the use, I just don't understand why. It just,
especially since it's been there forever. I understand if it's something new and you're like, okay, I don't like new stuff, not in my day. No, it's been in your day.
It's been a minute.
It's been everywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this group of kids that, I think the worst part about it is that they spread so much about me, and I pretty much got the shit end of the stick all the time. And whenever I'd start talking to a girl or I liked the girl within the faith, they were quick to be like, don't go for him because he, his father's not in the faith and he does things that are, because I would go to concerts and I'd go hang out and I'd have school friends and that was very frowned upon because they were living a life that was 100% Jehovah's Witness. And
yeah, I was going to ask you that.
Yeah.
Now that since your situation is so unique and both parents were not Jehovah, were there any other families within your church or your community that were the same way? Or were you really one of the only families that had that unique situation?
You come across it sometimes, but most of the times people aren't still together.
That's so bizarre. It's really bizarre.
In my Kingdom Hall, I think my mom, because they call them you're a single parent in the truth, meaning you're raising your kids by yourself this way, even though you do have a partner.
So weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to it. It's like an onion, but
yeah, that's very, very strange.
But that's my train of thought. Where we're going.
The day you finally left,
Yeah.
right? What was that moment like? It must have been the most liberating feeling ever. You must have felt so free, and this weight must have just like left your shoulders immediately. And how do you leave? Do you go there and hold court and explain things and hand something over, or like do you just leave?
No, so they have a whole process for doing it. You have to go through a committee.
Jesus.
Yeah. And the thing is that what is really kind of weird about it is when I decided, and I'll tell you, it was one of those things like I didn't have a day where I was like, on the 20th, this is when I'm going to leave.
Okay.
I just, it's like a joke my buddy has is that like when he left, it wasn't for any specific reason. He just one day was getting ready, put his suit on, and his tie was too short. And he was like, fuck this. And that was the way it was. I remember
I'm sure it's more than that.
Yeah, of course.
Sounds pretty funny.
But I just one day woke up and I wasn't feeling good and I was missing the preaching service, and one of the elders, because that's what they're called, the ones who kind of like run the show in the communal kingdom halls. They one came up to me and said, "Hey, are you feeling okay?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Hey, can I?" Right then and there, I just decided, you know what? I was like, "Hey, I want to talk to you guys about something that I had done, and I think it's time for me to get it off my chest." And I think like he knew right away. Like I was one of those kids that like at the end they were like, "This kid has just gotta,
Yeah, he's a wild boy."
Yeah, and he was like, "Okay, have you done something?" And I said, "Yeah." He was like, "Do you mind telling me?" And then at that point, like, it's really fucked up, but like premarital sex is like the one thing you don't do. You that is like people get scared shitless to be caught in something like that. Yeah. And I think the worst thing about it is that like I got baptized and then like a week later I lost my virginity. Like, yeah, dude, it's messed up like that. But I was already on a string of just doing bad things. I was getting made fun of and bullied by this group of kids. And then I ended up dating this girl. I dated 2 girls before I left. Not one of them wasn't my groomer, but I dated this one girl. I was 20. She was 17. And that lasted like nothing. I'll put a pin in that. I dated a girl who was 17 when I was 20. Put a pin in that. And then I left her because I liked this other girl. And this girl was like the first girl that I actually fully dated within the faith. And I was like, this is it. This is my life. I'm going to be super devout now. I'm not going to talk about, all the other shit that I used to do. Because at that point, dude, I was like smoking cigarettes. I was working in a restaurant. I was smoking cigarettes. I was having sex. I was drinking. I was just anything that was bad. I just wanted to feel something. So I was doing all that stuff. And I started dating this girl. I cleaned up my act. And then just one day I was just like, we had a talk and I broke up with her. And I said, look, I'm not breaking up with you because I hate you. I'm going to be 100% real with you. This religion is not in my heart. And you're very devout and you're very devoted. And I admire that. I admire that so much that I think you should be with someone who is as devoted as you, because like my heart's not in it. And I don't want it to be an issue. And I don't want to, be honest, I don't want a headache where I don't believe something and I'm going off the rails and you're going to do your best because you believe this is true and you're going to try to get me help. And I broke up with her, which was super devastating because I really, really liked that girl.
And this is the second one you're talking about?
This is the second one, yeah.
Yeah. How old was the second one?
I was 20 and I broke up with her in May. And then by July I had left, but we started dating like in like October.
So how old is she?
She was my age. She was 20.
The other one, you were teetering on a fine line.
Yeah, I know. just wait. It gets
groomer style.
I know,
almost.
But think about it.
Even though the gap wasn't as big, but the technicality was.
Technicality,
she was underage,
100%. Yeah. I mean, nothing ever happened between us, Because within the way you date in a Jehovah's Witness faith is also like fucking nuts.
They were both Jehovah's?
Yeah.
Okay.
The way you date is let's just say like I like a girl and we want to date, and I want to take her on a date. I have to have a chaperone. So meaning,
What?
so like, let's just say you're single, you're not doing your thing, you're doing your thing, and I say, hey Al, I want to take so and so out on a date. You know, would you mind like chaperoning us? And it's like,
What?
sure. And it's pretty much you need a third wheel with you everywhere you go.
Even if you're 30 dating somebody?
Even if you are 40.
No way.
Because temptation is there. You're not going to try to finger your girlfriend.
because they don't want you to have sex
if your
before
boy's
marriage.
in the back. Some people don't have any filter and might finger a girl with their boy in
Yeah,
the
they
back.
don't want you checking her oil.
Yeah.
Make sure she don't need a cord or two.
Yeah, exactly. But like when my sister was dating her now husband, I was the chaperone. So I was always there. I was always there for everything. And
Jesus Christ.
yeah,
It's a shot.
but this is the way, this is what happens. And now this is why marriages are failing so much as Jehovah's Witnesses, is because you have these people, you can't move in together. You can't go on a date alone. If you go on a date, you have to have a chaperone, or you have to travel, or you have to do it with other couples. So if I want to go on a date and I just want to take my girl to fucking Top's Diner, I got to have 4 motherfuckers with me.
And this is why religion is so fucked. It's kind of like the Jews, how they have to fuck through a hole in the sheet. Like,
Yeah.
let's get real here. This is a little crazy now.
Yeah. So that's why nothing really happened between me and these girls.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
because,
I got you.
You know, and I was okay with that at the time because I was just like, okay, you know, I considered to the second one, I considered like marriage. I met her mom, her parents. Me and her dad didn't get along, but me and her mom got along. And I think her dad knew that I was like, you know, this kid's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
But
You were an alternative Jehovah.
yeah, honestly, dude, I wasn't. And the thing was, is like I really didn't hide much. You know,
Yeah.
I liked crude humor. I liked dumb shit. I loved going out to concerts. I loved drinking. I loved doing all that shit.
You had 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
100%. And I think like my mom chose to just not really give that any thought because I guess she just didn't want to think about it. And when we broke up, I called for my judicial committee. And this is like the kind of fucked thing, is that I have to sit in a room with 3 guys that pretty much watched me grow up because I grew up in that Kingdom Hall. I have to tell them what I did, and then it just becomes a fucking 20 questions. And
Oh, here we go.
these questions get fucked because it's like, okay, what are you telling us you did? Hey, you know what? I've honestly been living a life for the last 5 years of my life. I drink, I smoke, I've had sex with over 4 women. I've done, at that time, I don't think I officially had sex at that point, but I lied
What
about
were you,
it.
22 you said?
I was 20.
20, okay.
No, yeah, I definitely had sex before. But I did all that stuff. I told him everything I did, and then came 20 questions. And you're probably thinking like, okay, what kind of questions?
Yeah.
When you had sex, did you finish?
Oh my God.
I have to tell some dude that
They
has
need details.
Yeah, because they have to come to a conclusion of whether or not you can stay or you have to go. You have to, like, sometimes it's so much of a punishable offense that they don't say, look, you can go or you can stay. They'll tell you, no, we have to do this. This is your disciplinary action. When I smoked, did I inhale? I had 2 girlfriends. Did anything happen between them? If it did, if we kissed, what kind of kissing was it? Did you use your tongue? Like stuff like that. And I'm just there at 20, just so burnt out from this religion that I'm just there like, yeah, no, I came twice. I did this. I smoked. I inhaled a lot. I smoked weed before. It was cool, I guess. I tried Oxycontin, like just shit like that. And to be honest, I didn't do half of it.
So you just wanted to ensure.
I just wanted to make sure that when they were going to tell me, they were going to stamp me with
this
it.
kid's no good. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
What if you said, all right, you want to ask me questions? How about you go fuck yourself? I hope you fucking die a horrible death and I'm walking out of here right now. What would happen to you? Nothing, right?
Probably nothing. They probably approach me at another time and say, hey, we really want to touch back on that. You know, honestly.
Eat a dick.
Yeah, honestly. And the thing is that I did it the most respectable way, meaning I called that committee.
Clearly
Some
respectable.
people just,
I would have said, fuck you.
they don't even get to the meeting. They just say, nah, that's it. They stop going one day and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I would have done.
But I had to do it that way.
No, I respect that.
Because one, my father raised me to be a respectable person. And it was like, my father's whole shtick was, if you're going to go and be a Jehovah's Witness,
Go with
be
dignity.
a Jehovah's Witness 100%. If you're out, leave.
I respect it.
But do it in a way where it's respectable and you know for a fact, like, look, that's your point. You're not going to show up and then leave and then show up and leave. Like,
I respect
know
that, yeah.
like when you, because the thing is when you get, they call it disfellowshipped. When you get disfellowshipped, nobody can talk to you that's involved with the Jehovah's Witness faith. And the thing is that to get everything back, you have to go to a certain amount of meetings. After you, let's just say you go to a year, or go for a whole year, going to meetings, not talking to anybody, doing this and that, then you write a letter. You have to write a letter to the higher ups that have never met you.
Yeah.
And you say, look, I did some shit. I'm over it. I'm a different person. I want to come back.
Yeah.
And they have to approve it.
And
but
review
if
it,
they
yeah.
don't, you have to just keep going for a certain amount of
trying.
months and then put out another letter. And then if they reject it, do it again. Do it again.
It's like applying for a job, taking an aptitude test. You fail it and they give you 90 days to retake it.
That's it, bro. You got a 2-week grace period before you can retake
Jesus
it.
Christ.
But
Well, you left, thank God.
yeah, absolutely.
Literally, whether you believe in God or not, just thank the fact that you left.
Yeah.
There are I was reading many stories out there
Sure.
of Jehovah's Witnesses committing suicide. Once they, have left. And I assume it's because of that overwhelming feeling. I couldn't imagine what it would feel like, because some of these people, 20, 40 years in the faith, and they leave like as adults.
Yeah.
And, you're in that prison of that cult, completely exiled and disconnected practically from the entire planet almost, to then finally being free. The realization of all those wasted years, wasted childhood, wasted young adulthood, wasted adulthood, all those years where you could have been truly happy, et cetera. It's definitely, I could imagine it being so much hitting you at once that like it's just completely overwhelming, and it makes sense why they commit suicide.
I think that has part to do with it, but also the shunning.
Yeah,
The shunning.
the what they do to you after, right? The bullying.
The shunning, because the form of it's like an abusive relationship. It's shunning you so that you are so down bad that you go back.
Yeah.
Because of it, I haven't really spoken to my sister in 8 years.
Really?
100%.
Is she still a Jehovah or
100%,
something?
yeah, 100%. She's married in the faith and everything.
Really?
Yeah. So when I left, my sister,
You still haven't talked to her?
we say hello to each other.
Well, when you like family gatherings?
That is it. But right now, if I had an emergency, I can't call my sister, dude.
What would happen if you texted her right now in front of me and said, I love you?
She would probably heart the message.
And that's it.
That's it.
It's a fucking shame, man.
It's again, like I said, it's an abusive relationship because in her mind, she thinks she's doing right because it's like,
She's brainwashed.
yeah, because it's like, if I keep doing this, one day he's going to crack and come back and then I can have my whole family. But because he's not doing it, I can't talk to him. So the first few years were so fucking bad because, my sister was my first social encounter. If anybody understands my parents more than me, it's my sister. And to not have that person to be able to text and be like, bro, holy crap, mommy's doing this, or, oh shit, you should have seen what Papi was doing. Like not having that sucks. It really sucks. And I'm a family guy. I love my family. I do anything for my family. So not having my sister essentially in my life, I think it would have been okay if she didn't come around the house, but she does all the time. And it's just like, I'm not there. And now it's gotten to a point where it's like, she'll say hello but like in the beginning, like I'm like, you're not here.
Have you ever thought to yourself, next time she's there,
Yeah.
you say, come here, and you pull in the other room and you tell her, cut the shit?
Yeah.
you're my sister.
Yeah.
I love you. You have to stop this. Have you ever thought to do that?
Yeah. My father's done it. And
And it doesn't matter.
because remember,
What does your mom have to say with all this?
my mom is
So your mom now is out of the faith.
no, my mom is in.
She's still a Jehovah's
100%.
Witness.
My mom is a very devout Jehovah's Witness.
No
And
wonder that gap isn't bridged between you and your sister because your mom probably agrees with her behind doors.
yeah, no, she has to because they
That's sick.
follow
man.
the same faith. My mom is kind of caught in the middle.
You got to
because-
get your mom out.
Yeah.
You got to save your mom, dude.
Listen, man, you know what? I thought about it for a long time, but I'm at a point where I see my mom and I see that's what makes her happy. And that's her ticket to, in her mind, seeing her mother. I've made the executive decision of like, okay, you do your thing. Because to me, if I believed something so firmly that I live my life by it, and someone's trying to tell me, no, you got to get out of that, I would take offense to it. So again, you're talking to me at 28. When I was 20, I would
It'd
have
be a different conversation.
100%. But I think because I'm in such a good place in my life, I'm very happy. I kind of see it, and it's kind of just like, okay, at some point you got to put your hands up and say like, Ma, like, this is where I am. I don't think I'm ever coming back. And I've told her that, because she would always tell me like, never say never, this and that. It's just her hope because in her mind, it's her only way of life. So to me, it's like, I can't rob that from her because I feel like that's what's really keeping her sane. So she's caught on this like teeter of like, I want to talk to my son, but I also agree with my daughter. I want to be there for my son, and I want to be there for my daughter. So my mom has to like, it sucks, man. I for a long time, it's like I blamed myself because I felt like I broke my family up because essentially I kind of did.
But you made the right decision in my eyes.
I had to do me. My father, at the end of the day, the house is divided. You got my mom and my sister who are fully devout. They believe what they believe. And then you got me and my pops. And
I don't understand how that family unit runs when you have one that is on such the opposite side of the coin.
yeah,
And then you have the other. It's remarkable to me.
yeah.
Because the extreme, because your dad doesn't identify with any. You told me you're agnostic. Is that correct?
Yes.
Since you left the faith, you consider yourself agnostic.
Well, yeah. I mean, when I left, I initially decided to go and study like 4 denominations, 4 different types of religions. And I studied with Mormons. I studied with Muslim people. I studied with Buddhists.
Jesus
And
Christ.
yeah, because to me,
Buddhism
it was
is dope.
it's actually really cool.
I wouldn't be one, but it's cool.
Taoism is real cool too.
Yeah.
By doing that, because to me, it was like when I left, I was like, okay, look, I left because I didn't believe this was the truth. I want to see how other people do religion.
Yeah.
And the one that scared me the most was definitely the Mormons. The same,
Because they're almost the,
almost the same because it's the
they're
same.
almost the same.
They have the same practices when you leave. It's the same, like, you can only really hang out with people who are in your faith.
Yeah.
You get married young, clean cut, always shaven,
Yeah.
happy people, clean lifestyle. But there's some things that don't make them the same. But
Of course, they are different, but there's a lot of similarities.
and the conclusion that I've came to all of them is honestly, it's just like, there's no religion that's telling you to be a bad person. There's no religion. There is. I haven't researched it. I am very well versed in theology. I like religion. I like studying it. I like understanding like what drives people to make this their safe haven. What drives people to think that this is my out. This is the truth. So I can admire it, but for me personally, I do believe that there is a higher power. Do I believe that it's a certain person? Do I believe that that person knows me? And do I believe that that person would destroy everything to help one group of people? No, I don't think that at all.
And that's what being agnostic is, right? It's you believe there is a higher power, but you don't align with any particular religion, right? That's kind of like, in layman's terms, what agnostic is.
Yeah, pretty much. You believe that there's a higher power, but you don't really stick to like, his name is Jehovah. His name is Allah. His name is God. His name is, you're kind of just like, all right, there's a higher power to all this. Do I know what happens to me after I die? No. And I'm okay with that. But I think the part that will always stick with me is that being a Jehovah's Witness growing up is that you really learn that when you leave, you have to accept the fact that if this shit really happens, you're going to die. You almost have to be okay with dying. And not to get so dark, but some people aren't ready for that. But I understood that when I left, that I was like, okay, if this actually happens, if Armageddon actually happens, and my mom was right, I will take this shit like a champ and say, Ma, hey, look, you were right. All right, cool. But you have to be okay with death. Death is a big part of Jehovah's Witness doctrine because that's the end. You learn about everlasting life, and what's the opposite of life is death. And when you're a kid, you understand that if you do certain things, you will die. So you learn at a very young age about death.
Yeah.
You don't really have the whole like, well, what do you mean death? Like, it's like, no.
Yeah.
You're going to die. And if you are on the wrong side of the fence when the shit hits the ceiling, that's up to you.
Yeah. So here, I'm going to give you my stance on religion.
Sure.
So like I told you, I grew up Catholic, right? My father still is a Catholic, kind of.
I could see it in him.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You don't go to church every
No.
But, when the holidays come.
I'm going to say Christmas time comes, that dude is definitely in that church.
They all go down. They do the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit.
You eat the bread.
Amen. You kiss the Jesus piece on your gold chain. The whole fraudulent shit that these people do. And I apologize in advance if I'm coming across negative. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It's just that it's not that I have a hatred towards a lot of religions, but I've just seen it tear apart people. Mm-hmm. I've seen it tear apart communities.
Yeah.
And I have a bad taste in my mouth about it. And that bad taste really, like I mentioned before, it came across when my mother passed away. Uh-huh. After that, most people would gravitate towards it. And I totally went the opposite way. Now, my mother was very religious. Probably the last 10, 15 years of her life, she passed away in 2009. She never went to church every day, but she was reading the Bible, all the saints everywhere, typical Puerto Rican woman that was really, in her faith. And I grew up in it. So I went to CCD. I did the whole nine. And as a kid, and even then, even though my mother's the most important woman in my life, even though I agreed with almost every single thing she said, she was extraordinarily knowledgeable, very, I thank my life for her. I wouldn't be as interesting or into the things that I am or as well versed in things that I am if it wasn't for her. Mm-hmm. I would never have this broad interest in many things if it wasn't for her. I wouldn't be as cultured if it wasn't for her. So I'm very thankful for her. But she was very religious, and I just went along with it as you did with the Jehovah because you have no choice. You're a kid. She didn't force me to do stuff. She wasn't very strict in that sense, but she still did that to the point where if somebody passes away or if I have something very nervous coming up, it's just natural and instinctual for me to pray. Yeah. Even to this day, and I'm not religious, but I still catch myself doing that. If I'm very nervous or if somebody dies or if I have a big thing coming up or a job interview, I'm praying because I was so brainwashed and instilled at a young age to do that, that you're going to go to heaven, that you're going to do this. So I would do that. And then my mom passed. Everything fucking hit me because I did not have her anymore. I had to become a man. I had to be somebody that I never was. I had her there to save my ass through life. She passed, all that fucking went out the window, and I had to be a man. I had to do everything myself, and all of it rushed and hit me. And I just, after that, I'm like, fuck religion. Doing Google researching, and I was typing the other day. So you know what? Let me take a look at this. How many religions are there in the planet? And the number varies between what website you look at, but it's around 4,200 recognized religions that exist on this planet. We're all humans, but we all identify with our own religion or beliefs, right? So the 5 most widely recognized, the main ones, if you will, are Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism. Now, with that being said, with that many religions worldwide, who the fuck are you or anybody else to point at that religion and say it's the incorrect one?
Yeah, that was my problem.
So what the fuck does that tell you about religion?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say this to disrespect anybody listening that is religious. Because if you were sitting next to me right now, I will still hug you and say I love you because you are a human. I don't care with what religion you identify with. You are a human at the end of the day. But I just want people to sit back and think, like, if you don't have a definite answer for something, how could you be so deeply entrenched in it when you have zero proof? Zero. There's ancient artifacts. There's things with scribes in it. Papyrus with stuff written, all this sort of stuff from every religion. And it's old, but they were all written by humans describing things of the higher power that they think happened. But if you don't have I'm a skeptic.
Yeah.
If I don't have 100% proof, I'm not saying it's not true, but I can't say it is.
Yeah.
How could you identify with one particular religion when there's 4,200 and counting, I'm sure?
Yeah. I think it just goes back to like, you just it's like picking your poison. You know, where do you resonate the most? Where do you feel most at ease? Where do you feel most comfortable?
Yeah.
And what do you can outweigh the good from the bad and say like, okay, look, I don't really agree with this, but I'm very strong in this aspect.
Yeah.
I don't really agree with that, but I'm very strong in this. And I think that's what I think religion for most people is something either you are grandfathered into.
Yeah.
Your dad was a Catholic. Your grandfather was a Catholic. You guys have been Catholic for years. That's
you
what
didn't make the choice yourself.
You're going to raise your son Catholic. That's just because that's just what you do. That's just how you grew up. Or you hit a low period in your life and something comes and you think to yourself that this is a sign.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess that's kind of what happened
to me.
You have like
an epiphany and you think like, okay, this is... you came to me to talk about this. I've actually been feeling this. This is kind of weird. What's going on here? Then you start to resonate with whatever religion. But most of the time, I think a lot of religion is just, you're just grandfathered in because of what the old heads did.
And, I tell my wife this all the time. I say the one thing I wish, obviously I wish my mother was alive. That's inevitable, right? But the one thing I wish is to really sit down and have a conversation with her. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell her my views. I'd really be interested in how she feels what I feel now.
Yeah.
If maybe she'd be like, you know what? Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know. And that's the one conversation that irks me. And I have dreams of her and I have those conversations with her in dreams sometimes. It's either that or I see her and I completely miserably bawling, crying to her in my dream all the time.
Yeah.
That's like a reoccurring theme.
Yeah.
When she's in my dream, I tell her how much I miss her and I go ballistic.
Yeah.
Ballistic. And I wake up ballistic.
Yeah.
That's like a reoccurring thing. But I really wish I could have a conversation with her and ask her opinion on how she feels about me and my opinions now. Mm-hmm. Is she disappointed in how I feel? Or does maybe she would, because she is a pretty open-minded person. Maybe she would be like, maybe you're right. And the one thing is that with religion, there's a lot of good in it. It teaches you a lot of life lessons, no matter what religion you're in or not.
Yeah.
A lot of life lessons, a lot of, it develops a moral compass for you. Mm-hmm. And it teaches you a sense of order because you really need order. It's kind of like police, like they're a necessary evil. You need order in your life. And religion can help give you that solidarity, that sense of a goal. It can give you an end goal. But religion sometimes just takes it to a place where I can't, I don't know.
I think too, to go off of what you said about like, I did get a lot of structure growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, as far as discipline of like waking up, being somewhere on time, being respectful to your elders is something that was huge about my mother and just my father too. But just very like when you shook somebody's hand, you looked at them in the face when they spoke, like that level of structure, and it kept me out of a lot of trouble because like when it came to that, when I didn't give into that, once it's like smoking, drinking, like I kept out a lot of it at a very young age, but it wasn't until like obviously you get curious. But for the most part, it did keep me out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that structure, man. That's the good that I take from religion.
Yeah.
That structure, the good moral values that some religions could express to you,
I think the people too, you meet some really cool people.
You do.
Really nice people. I have some friends that I haven't spoken to in a very long time. I had a friend that I haven't spoken to in 8 years decide to say like, fuck it, and came to get a haircut. And we caught up, and there's some good people in there.
Of course there is. They're just brainwashed.
There's some really good people that still, like, to this day, like, I haven't seen this cat in 8 years. You know what I mean? I haven't spoken to him. The last time I spoke to him, I told him I was leaving. And for him to just talk and seeing how much he respected that I wasn't in, and was like, how's your girlfriend? I see you're doing shows. Like, that looks awesome.
He cared about you.
Yeah.
Not your beliefs. He cared about you.
Yeah. That to me, just, man, that he left. I said bye. We got dinner after. We spoke.
Oh, good.
We left. Man, I cried like a baby the second he left, man, because I was like, shit.
Because you have good memories. Obviously, it's not all negative. The people you met, you've had good moments there.
Of course, man. A lot of laughs, a lot of good people, man. It's just one of those things where that's just like, I couldn't see myself being that person, And even after I left, there was just some, like, I was still approached like, okay, so now we're gonna reopen this. I dated a girl that was 17 when I was 20, right?
Yeah.
She started dating a guy that was 38.
Jesus fucking Christ.
When she was 18.
It's technically legal, but
it is
sick.
But here's the thing. The worst part about all of this is he's known her since she was 10.
Oh my. Talk about grooming.
He knew her when
That's
she was
sick.
10. Not like it's not like he saw her when she was 10. He went away for a couple of years, came, like, he watched her grow. And the weirdest thing about all of this, Al, is one day during a snowstorm, this dude pulls up in front of my house. I'm disfellowshipped. You can't talk to me. But he pulls up anyways. And he calls me. Don't know how he got my number. He's like, hey, it's so-and-so. I'm outside of your house. And I said, hello, so-and-so. Why are you outside of my house? And he says, I want to talk to you. So what do? I go and I grab a kitchen knife and I put it in my pocket because I'm like, I don't know what this, dude, it was like, I hadn't dated that girl for like 3 years at that point. I hadn't seen her. I had already been out of the faith for 3 years.
Yeah.
And
that's creepy.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's really bad. And so he pulls me aside. I get in the car. It's a fucking snowstorm. This dude drove up from Nyack.
Wow.
Came all the way down in the middle of the night and pulls me to the side and tells me that he is now getting serious with the girl that I was dating. And he wanted to know, this is so fucked. He wanted to know how many times that I kiss her, if we made out, did I use my tongue? Did I ever force myself on her? And I wish for the life of me, I recorded it, because the worst thing is that guy abused his power of being an elder to talk to me and said, I can talk to you. I'm an elder. The only way an elder can talk to me as a disfellowshipped person is if they're just giving me advice on why I should come back.
But he wasn't doing that.
He was asking me how many times I was kissing his now fiance. Now they're married.
Wow.
But he was like, I'm giving this guy like advice. And he's like, no, I really like her. And I'm like, dude, you just got to do you. Like, you can't really worry about how many times she's kissed me. I said, dude, I've been out for years. I'm gone. I'm erased. And that abuse of power, like, any like, oh, maybe I'll go back. That was just like, nah, I'm just not. That's fucking weird. Yeah. You just don't do that, dude. Like, there was a lot of weird stuff. And that was a big thing too. It's just like, you had a lot of older gentlemen like preying on younger girls.
Yeah, they were pedophiles, man. That's why they have the same, anybody in those religious organizations, it's abuse of power, like you said. Yeah. It's a money. Speaking of this money thing, what I find so ironic about the Jehovah's Witnesses, right, is it's a religion, or better yet, an organization or a cult.
Yes.
Which tries to predict the end of the world. And they've tried to do this more than 4 times.
Oh, yeah.
More than 4 times, and clearly failed every time.
I think the last one was like 1975.
Yeah, and how people are still members of this is beyond me. But anyhow, anybody that thinks the world is going to end, why would you need to build a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio and counting if you're so worried about the end of the world? Because building a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio means you're going long-term, and they are the richest motherfuckers on this fucking planet. Well, one of. Yeah. I did my research. I know they got, I forget how much money when they moved buildings from Brooklyn, New York to upstate New York.
They sold that for so much
$1 billion, something crazy.
Bro.
Now they have this massive estate in upstate New York.
Yeah,
Australia has their own quarters, and they're also equally big, not including all the other real estate they own on top of this stuff, all the tax exemptions.
All the tiny little spots, yeah.
But it's just for the people, right? This is
the
end of days are coming, so let me build this real estate portfolio so my generational wealth will continue on.
That was my big thing, too. Once I started really questioning different aspects of it, like I would ask my mom, I said, if you guys pride yourself on being the true religion and not like any other religion, why do you guys exempt from taxes? You're not like every religion is exempt from taxes, no?
Yeah.
And I remember hearing a story about, I used to work with this woman when I was working in Rutgers in the hospital, and she used to be a cab driver. And she said, I was like, oh yeah, I don't really celebrate the holidays because I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, but I'm no longer affiliated. And she was like, oh, I've picked up the Jehovah's Witnesses. I think it was you guys have a governing body, right? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, yeah. I had to pick them up at the airport. And I go, oh, nice. Well, what airport? And she was like, Teterboro. And I'm like, what do you mean Teterboro? She's like, yeah, they have a private jet. And I'm like, what?
Oh yeah, they got money, man.
I'm like, are you serious? And she's like,
money.
And she's like, yeah, they have a private jet. And she said it was kind of weird though, because they started talking about things and then they had to like move the window up. And I'm like, and I asked my mom, I'm like, did you know that the governing body has a private jet? They tell you to live within your means. They tell you to live modestly.
Not them though.
No, of course not. Because God, they're pretty much the voice.
Look at Joel Osteen, all these guys.
Yeah, dude.
They're all multimillionaires, man. They that's why I always find it hard to believe how could you really, whatever.
Yeah.
I might sound like a hateful person. Like I said, I hang out with, I got Jews at work, Hasidics and all that. Man. I talk to everybody, bro.
It's all good, bro.
Even my father-in-law, shout out to my father-in-law, love that guy, Jimmy. He's a pretty religious Christian, very knowledgeable in the Bible.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable.
Those are the people
interesting
I like
to hear him talk.
To. Yeah.
He's a great guy to talk to.
Yeah.
I just, I don't agree with a lot of things that he believes in, but that doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. That he's who he is and I'm who I am. Of course. There's nothing wrong with either of us.
You guys can coexist peacefully.
Yeah. It's just that I have a certain view. I'm just expressing it. I don't mean it disrespectfully, except Jehovah's Witnesses. I think y'all are crazy. Scientologists are fucking nuts too.
Dude,
don't even get me started on them.
No, don't get me started on them.
At least Jesus, we know it's documented. He was an actual person.
Yeah.
So
I don't listen, man. Those people got it. I can't I'm almost like scared to talk about it because of all of my close encounters with Scientology, like being like followed and stuff.
Yeah.
Like crazy shit. Like, hey, we heard you. We saw that you were looking at our stuff. Are you interested?
Oh, they were trying to recruit you.
Yeah, bro. But like, I'm in the fucking park.
What up, Tom Cruise?
Dude.
Eat a dick, little man.
I love TC, bro. That's my boy.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
He's a fucking great actor, man.
Yeah, he is. He's batshit crazy.
Yeah. He's pretty high up there too.
Oh yeah.
Because the way because I studied Scientology too. The way that works is that the more money you put in, the higher you are. So if you donate $1 billion to Scientology over a few years, you're right up there with the leader.
But dude, that dude LGH, the guy that created it,
L. Ron Hubbard.
dude, yeah, LRH, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude, that dude has written more fiction books than
he's a
anybody on the
dude,
planet.
He wrote science fiction novels.
Come
that was
on. How could you be that dumb?
you put him up there with George Orwell or Ray Bradbury making these scientific
How
novels.
could you be that dumb? Really?
Have you ever seen the movie The Master with
No,
Joaquin
I
Phoenix?
haven't.
Take a
No, I
watch.
haven't.
It's loosely based on Scientology.
I love Joaquin. Joaquin Phoenix is in it?
Yeah.
I love him.
It's Paul Thomas Anderson. Do you know that director?
Yes, I do.
He did Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
He did
Dirk Diggler.
Dirk Diggler. Yeah.
But I mean, I just don't understand how you could be that stupid or that gullible to fall for something like that. Like I said, at least like the Bible, the King James or whatever, at least like Christianity and stuff, these are real figures that existed for the most part. The only thing that I think is interesting to dig into is scientific explanations for the events that happened in the Bible. Very interesting. The parting of the Red Sea, burning in the bush, stuff like that. And then there's that interesting book about, I don't remember the name of it. Joe Rogan quotes it all the time about mushrooms and the influence of that on the Bible times and religion, and how a lot of these people might have been tripping on psilocybin when they saw the burning bush. It's very interesting. Like, I don't think it's really true, but it's interesting to like entertain those ideas.
Absolutely. When you go with a palette like that, I mean, anything with religion, honestly, dude, anything goes. And
that's the thing. Anything. How could you align with one?
I have this article that I wrote, because that's what I do. I used to like writing articles and stuff, but I read, it was the thing pretty much talking about like how immorality through religion equals morality. And I would use different topics of like, for instance, the only reason it was okay for that guy that was 38 to date a girl who was 18 that he met when she was 10 was because he was higher up, you know, before soldiers go out to kill each other. There's a priest in the car saying like, you know what? Hey, God wants you to do this. So killing is only okay when it's through God, right? Dating somebody is okay if you're a man of God. You know, you preying on children is okay because it's an act of God. You're a man of God. So clearly your intentions are right.
It's just an excuse to cover up.
Dude, come on, man.
And that's why like whenever somebody comes around me and they express that they're deeply religious, I automatically in my head write them off as you're a jerk off because a lot of these people that I know, look, let's watch the movie Goodfellas, for instance.
Yeah.
You see these guys go out and murder somebody. Then they come home or they go into the church. It's okay now because you dipped your hand in holy water, wiped it on your fucking forehead. Now it's okay, but you just murdered somebody that has a mother.
Yeah.
You just murdered somebody that has children. It's okay now.
Yeah.
No, it's not fucking okay.
Never will.
You're still a scumbag. You always were because you align with a religion. And that's the thing is hypocrisy and religion go hand in hand.
Oh, 100%.
Especially with Catholicism. Dude, the fucking Pope. You know how many drug dealers wash money through these motherfuckers? Why is the Vatican the richest fucking entity in the planet? There's a reason for that. Yeah. All the corruption that, let me not get started, but it's hard. It goes to show you humans are humans, no matter what.
Yeah.
Humans are humans. Yeah. And there's bad humans and there's good humans. No matter what religion you are, it doesn't make you better than the next person. You're still a human.
Yeah.
Whether you're a good person or not.
Yeah.
Whatever. Sorry. I just got to go off.
Dude, it's all good. It's all right.
Once my mom passed, I have this big bitterness. It was like the awakening for me. It made me see life through a different lens. And now I have a lot of strong opinions. But like I said, you'll never know because I don't care if I hang out with Hasidic Jews with the curls and all. I chill with everybody, bro. I don't care what you believe in. I love you because you're a person. You're a living, breathing human.
Yeah.
And I'm a compassionate, empathetic person. I don't care who you are. I don't care what I hate Donald Trump. Plenty of my friends like Donald Trump. Yeah. It's okay. Even my father-in-law, like we were just talking about him, he likes Donald Trump. I don't care. Me and him kick it all the time, bro. That's my homie. When he was here last week, he was in this room. Yeah. We were talking about podcasts, and he might start a Bible one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and dude, he can go for hours. He's very intelligent when it comes to the Bible. I'd listen to it. It's fascinating. I don't believe in it. It's fascinating.
I used to be really, really salty about like religion.
There's like me?
Kind of, but there's like...
I'm not that bad. I'm just animated.
There's a few stages when you first leave the Jehovah's Witness faith that I think everybody that gets disfellowship goes through. It's like, there's the few stages. The first one is you saying like, it's just not for me. they're good people, this and that. And then it's the once that starts to set in and you realize like no one's talking to you anymore. And that's when you're like, well, fuck that, fuck them. You start looking up shit, you start getting angry. And that's where you have all this like hate in your heart. Yeah. And then after that blows over, hopefully, you kind of just let it go and you just live your life and you break those generational curses. And I think that's where I'm at now, honestly, dude.
That's good. It's a healthier place than I'm at. I'm an angry guy, so I'm very passionate. And
I understand that too, man. But
I can't help it. I can't shake it. It's just who I am.
Nah, it's all good. I just, and you would think that I would be so like
hateful against it.
Dude, for half the shit that happened to me, dude. Just the rift it caused between like my family and like,
that's
mom,
rough.
like,
I still can't. But I thought your mother wasn't. I thought your mother wasn't anymore.
No,
she still is, and your dad's not. But this is the most unique situation I've ever.
My story is pretty.
You
unique.
weren't lying when you said unique.
Yeah, most people that you come to find that are disfellowshipped, it sucks though. Like I said, I got it pretty easy. Like when I left, I still stood home. It was just a little bit awkward.
Of course, yeah.
But you have kids, and I come across people that I meet that they have both parents that are in, and those parents kick that kid out.
Oh, that's
a lot
how
of them
could you kick your kid out, dude?
It happens.
It happens all the time.
They kick, their whole family, or like they come from a whole family of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they come to the realization that they're gay and they don't want to live this life anymore, and they're like shunned. And like I have friends that like. That are gay, that were active Jehovah's Witnesses, and they left. And it's like, I'm very fortunate that I grew up around my cousins and my aunts and my uncles. But if all of them were Jehovah's Witnesses, including my father, and now I have nobody, I don't know if I would have went back or not. Sometimes people just put on the blindfold again, despite everything. They have words for it too. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness where you're in, but you're out, they call them PMOs, which means you're personally in, but you're mentally out.
Oh, PMO. Interesting. Never heard that. You learn something every day.
Yeah. So there's a subreddit called ex-JW where those are where those terms are. They'll say like 24 female PMO. This just happened, and it sucks because you hear some of these people's situations and some people cannot get away from it to the point where they're waiting. And it's so sad. They're waiting for their relatives or their moms or dads to die.
Oh my God.
Because it's too much to leave. So they're waiting for something to happen. So then now, and I'll be honest with you, I was there. I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Let me just live this out. Let my mom croak, thinking I'm a good Jehovah's Witness. And then the second we take that last bit of dirt on her, I'm going to go be me. But then I came to the realization that I cannot live that way.
Of course
and
not.
I'd rather have my mom and us have a mutual understanding and me just live my life. But some of these stories of people getting kicked out, living in their car, their parents being, because there's extremists, man.
How could you do that to your kid, man?
Dude.
Well, regardless if they align with what you believe in or not.
Put religion into the question. Put like
that's
life
why religion
or death.
sickens me, bro. That's why it sickens me because
there's
of that.
Nothing that you wouldn't do, man. If you're fully devout, there's nothing that you wouldn't do.
I could never.
Honestly.
I could never, man. Like for instance, like I'm not gay at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with being gay at all either.
Yeah. My
son, who knows what he's going to be when he gets older, man.
Yeah.
Like I have gay cousins who, if you heard that podcast, it's unbelievable. Love you, Vinny. I have nothing against anybody.
You shouldn't.
Especially not people that are gay, right?
You absolutely shouldn't.
Would I want my son to be gay? Preference-wise, honestly, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
If he ever came out to me and said he was, okay. He's got to deal with it, not me.
Yeah.
I love him for who he is. It's my kid. Yeah. I could never, ever tell my son, get out of my house because of that. Ever. That's my kid. But I look at my kid every day, thankful that I have him. And I could never, ever push anybody away because, why? Because he's gay and I'm not. Who cares?
Mm-hmm. There's non-religious people that do that.
It's insane.
I have a cousin that his
happens all the time,
father
dude.
Beat the shit out of him.
I would never. I'd rather die.
Yeah. He'd beat the shit out of my cousin.
Humans are humans,
dude. You want to know? We knew that kid was going to be gay from the start. And
most of the time you do know. They're born that way for the most part.
It's funny because like everybody thought I was 100%. Like
who cares
everybody,
if you were? It doesn't even matter.
That's the thing. But like, dude, my cousins and my aunt and uncle swore that I was gay. And it's funny because in the end, all my cousins are gay.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And especially like,
I got a couple.
yeah.
Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Vinny. You know what I mean? I love them both.
Yeah, they're great people. They're
just people.
It's just, dude,
They're just people. That's all they are.
That's it. That's all it
Just
is.
a preference. It's like I like playing Sonic and you like playing fucking Boogerman.
There's,
I like both, but I swing both ways on that topic.
there's a lot of closeted gay people.
Oh, there's
Jehovah's
tons.
Witness
It's
faith.
sad.
And it's crazy because I have a buddy that he is out recently, as of like maybe like 3 years, 2 years. And this guy used to give me Bible studies.
Oh, yeah?
And he's a great guy. I've known him my entire life. He's an amazing down.
I'm sure there's many good Jehovah's. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what was crazy when he came out and we got together to hang out and he told me, and now he is going at 31, he left. And this guy was up there.
31.
He was up there giving talks. He was traveling around the world preaching in Honduras and doing all that stuff, doing the Lord's work. But in the end, he knew he was gay. He says he knew he was gay since the first grade. And you want to know what's crazy is now I'm sitting at this guy that I used to look for guidance, being a Jehovah's Witness. Now he's 31. I'm 26 at the time. He's coming to me, asking me, how do I get past this grief? And to me, that was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that's
now
heavy.
I'm giving advice for him to be like, you know what? You have to be okay with who you are, your decision, and you just got to keep going, man. You know, and it's crazy that
Go be gay.
Yeah,
As much as you can.
as much as you
Go.
can. Oh, trust me, he's like super sassy now. It's kind of annoying.
Go grab that cock.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. You got to enjoy life, man. I don't mean to be crass, but
No. But like I
the
said,
mushroom baby, go enjoy it.
he's living his life now, and I'm so
Good
proud
for
of him.
him.
And I
What's
love
his
him.
name?
David.
David, if you hear this, I love you.
Shout out to David, man.
All right, David, I love you.
He's a great guy. I love him to death.
Hope you hear this, and I hope you're doing your thing.
And it's crazy because you want to know what the craziest part is his mother is the woman that knocked on my mother's door. That got my mother into the faith.
How ironic, huh? Isn't it ironic?
Dude. It's there's, like I said, there's just so many layers.
There's too many
It's
layers.
to the point where it's like my sister's best friend growing up, his mother is the one that preached to my mom that got her in the faith.
Jesus fucking
And
Christ.
he comes out gay, and now me and him are close. And it's crazy how these things work out. But it's weird though, because like a lot of the people that leave, some people that were amongst the people that would talk like shit, now they're coming to me and they want to be friends with me now.
Wow.
And I'm respectfully like, I don't really fuck with you that much.
Yeah.
But it's almost like people come to me and they're just like, how do I do this? How do I take off this lens?
That's great.
And it's cool. And, you know, I try to just be positive as possible. I try to let bygones be bygones. And one of my good friends that I had like a huge crush on, she came out gay. And, you know, when she was thinking about leaving, she messaged me and was just like, hey, like, you know, like, this is who I am. And I'm just like, okay, if you want to live your truth, this is what you have to deal with. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Good for her.
But I'm seeing a lot of people leave. Like when I left after the pandemic, dude, they lost a lot of people. And
Because they had a lot of time to sit at home and reflect.
not only that too, but like now you have no choice to be on the internet.
Yeah.
You're on TikTok.
Yep.
And there's a lot of contradiction on
A lot
there.
of temptation.
A lot of temptation, a lot of contradiction.
A lot of interest that you never knew you had.
Yeah. And I think the pandemic, and the thing is that they were doing meetings on Zoom. And you know how many people would just put on their laptop and go fucking jerk off somewhere?
Yeah.
You know, or watch TV. And a lot of people just lost interest and they were just like, I think also what the pandemic was is I've been taught for years that it's like, the end is coming. The end is coming. When the end finally comes, there's going to be a sickness outbreak, and that's how we know it's going to start. And on top of that, you know, this is when the higher ups will preach peace and security, and that's when we know that it's time. But if you look at historically every president since Abraham Lincoln, each of them have declared peace and security.
Of course.
So it's funny though, because you see people and they tell you like, it's so close. Like, just keep going. We're almost there. And you think in yourself like, yeah, but you're almost still saying like, hey, we're almost at mass genocide.
Yeah.
Where children and babies and adults are going to die because they didn't want to dress in a suit and go to a building on Sundays.
It's crazy, man.
Which is insane, man.
Yeah, it's really, really unfortunate. So, with all that depressing shit aside that we talked about tonight, one thing about you that I always related to was your love for music.
Yeah.
For as young as you are, your tastes are very broad, and it seems you have had some elderly influences in your life musically. I believe a long time ago you told me your uncle's a big influence when it comes to music to you, no? Or was that your father?
My father.
Okay, your
Definitely
father.
My father, yeah.
When did your love for music begin? And how did the Jehovah's frown upon listening to music, or were they okay with, or they didn't really care about that? I always wondered that as well.
So my love for music comes from I think my appreciation for music actually comes from my father.
So it's your father, okay.
My father, I mean, even when I was leaving, he was blasting salsa music. My father is somebody that he gets lost in music. And the man's never played an instrument in his life.
Oh, really?
No, surprisingly. Nobody in my family actually played.
Just you.
Just me, yeah. My father having such an appreciation for music, I grew up, music was always playing. All the time, man.
Was your mother into music too, or no?
Yeah, surprisingly. My mom is very into TV.
Really? Like novelas and stuff like that?
150%, like that. And then whenever...
Maria Jose.
Yeah. Whenever...
Oh, man.
And honestly...
Maria la del barrio.
Yeah. I think like my earliest exposure to like the female anatomy came from watching those. Because I remember like whenever... My mom being the most devout Christian Jehovah's Witness there is, she really loves her raunchy, telenovela.
That bochinche. Yo, Spanish women love bochinche.
But like, dude, some of the shit looks like it's filmed horribly. Like the camera quality is bad, so is the acting, and she's just like there, like that.
The women are gorgeous.
100%. There was this one, I'll touch on this, but there's this one novela that I remember when I was in like the 7th grade. And it was called Sin Senos No Hay Paraíso. Do you know that one? Bro, look up the cast.
I gotta check it out.
Oh my God. That was like, wow. It was like, I think a Colombian one. And it was like, I remember my mom just being like, I don't think I should watch this. But we just did. And it was about women who were prostitutes that got, Sin Senos No Hay Paraíso, which means without like tits, there's no paradise. Which, I mean, damn, dude.
Man. Yeah, they're crazy people, man. Very passionate.
As much
dramatic.
as my mother did not want to watch that,
she watched it.
Yeah, we watched up to the finale. I remember just being there, like there as a kid, like, damn, that sucks.
So your mother was more into that. Your dad was the music guy.
My dad was the music guy, and my dad always had music playing. Always will always have music playing. I'm the same way. But like Saturday morning, salsa was playing when he would clean. If my mom was cooking, he'd always put on music. Parties, my dad loved being the guy that would put something on, someone going, oh shit, like that. My dad would like, that is my dad's heroin. That's like, holy, I put that on. Like, I know good music.
I agree. Yeah, I can relate.
But it wasn't until I started venturing off into my own that I had an appreciation for the oldies. But because my father never listened to the music I listen to older music than my dad. So like Beatles, Sinatra, Stones, but like even farther back, like classical music, orchestral music. My father never listened to any of that.
Oh, no?
I just had a deep appreciation for music, and the Beatles is
and a thirst for the knowledge.
Yeah, honestly.
When did you start playing instruments?
I started playing guitar at 10.
And is that the only instrument you play, or do you play something else too?
So I actually started as a bass player at 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
I started playing the bass, and then when I was 10, and then it wasn't until I was 13 that I started playing the guitar. And then everything just followed. Like I love playing the piano. I can play the drums. I love music so much. I love creating it. My sister was more of a dancer. My sister is an amazing salsa dancer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We haven't partied together, so I don't know if she still does it. But Jamie really, really, really could dance, and like she could just go off and just going to parties as a kid and just a lot of music playing and just feeling good. And I think music too for me is my parents would always listen to like a lot of happy music. And it wasn't until like 8th grade that like when I got my heart broken, my little 8th grade heart, for the first time that I started listening to the Beatles, and then I just never shut it off.
Beatles are amazing, by the way.
Never shut it off. And that's how I coped. And that's how, even to this day, music is just my
escape.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you during your Jehovah days, what were you listening to? But obviously you just said the Beatles.
Yeah. And I think my mom was a little bit happier with that because they were very strict on like, no gangsta music, no rap, no heavy metal, no
I was
screamo.
A rap guy,
yeah, of course. My uncle was a rap guy. And
okay. So your uncle's the hip hop influence.
100%.
Okay. So that's what you brought up to me. Okay.
With him, I got Jay Dilla, I got Nas, I got Biggie. I got, but also like some R&B stuff too, like a lot of R&B stuff, like R&B, Casey and JoJo, and
I love all that stuff.
Shy, and
it's my bread and butter.
Big Daddy Kane,
the best.
Just because then when I started getting into playing the bass, he was showing me like Big Daddy Kane, and what is it? Smooth operator.
Sorry, I have so much gas in my chest.
Yeah.
Too much of those high noons.
I think, Big Daddy Kane. So music has been a very big part of my life, and it isn't until like maybe the last 3 years that I've actually been taking it like, I want to say serious because I love.
Yeah, how'd you get linked up? Because you're in a bunch of you're a couple cover bands or one?
I just go, honestly, dude, I just go wherever.
And usually you're the youngest guy.
Yeah.
Always. I noticed that. I'm like, everybody around this kid's like 50, 40 plus.
Yeah, dude, honestly.
And you got Jamie here, Jaime.
If you go on YouTube and type in Strawberry Fields, New York City from 2020 till now, there's probably a video of me. There's a video of me, I think it has like 500,000 views
sick.
Of me, and just, I play with a bunch of like 60-year-old guys. I think the youngest one other than me, I'm the first youngest. The second youngest is 55.
Really? Yeah, all cover bands, right?
Yeah, so we just do mainly like a lot of Beatles, a lot of Bee Gees, a lot of older stuff. I resonated a lot with those guys. I would go to this festival, Beatles Fest, when I was 14. I would go by myself.
That's how you linked up with these guys?
Yeah, honestly, yeah. As one festival I would go to, and they would encourage people to bring their guitars, and you would just like, it was one of those festivals where like two people would be playing a song in a corner, and you would go all the way down. People were just linking with music, and I was a little skinny ass kid with a big ass guitar, and I was always nervous. And I remember one of the guys saying like, "You want to play with us? Like, come on, come hang with us." And then I've known those guys since I was like 16 years old,
yeah.
And I've been playing with them over 10 years. And I've been to Pennsylvania with them. I've been to Wisconsin. The only sad thing is like they're kind of like dying off now. Like we lost one of the guitarists about 2 years ago, and that was
you're always the lead singer and lead guitar, or
anybody sings for that group. The Beatles group, I'm lead guitar. I love doing the George Harrison solos. I have two guitars that are modeled after the ones George Harrison has. But the one group that I have now that we're doing like killer stuff,
the Ghost of, what is it called?
So we're called the Fabulous Las Vegas.
Okay.
And the festival that we were playing was called The Ghost of Uncle Joe's.
Oh, okay.
It's this big festival in a graveyard. And
that was the one I was supposed to go to in October, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't make it.
Nah, don't worry about it. I would probably do it next year.
I wanted to go.
So
that sounds awesome.
Dude, you could even, like I said, you could even bring your kid, bro.
I'm surprised they let you guys perform in a graveyard.
So that graveyard was abandoned in 2008.
Oh, that's what, but there's still bodies.
Yeah.
It has to be,
yeah. There's still bodies. 2008 was and then it was sold to a board of trustees, and then they decided to
that's weird.
Make it a national landmark, but to upkeep it and pay the taxes, they throw that festival.
That's weird.
One of the organizers throws it to keep it afloat, so it's not bought out by like big companies.
That's awesome.
So it's for a really good cause. And this year was 1,600 people, and that was like, I've never played for that many people in my entire life.
It's a lot.
And the thing is like having the guy set up and perform the song, and then I walk out, and then when I walk out, the lights come up, and everybody's screaming, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, holy!
That must jump you up to get you revved up.
And first I was like super nervous. But the second the drummer just goes, everything's gone, and I'm just ready.
Yeah.
Play, you know?
All goes out the window. That's awesome.
But yeah, most of my upbringing, my mother never really shadowed me from music because I never was really into hip hop. It wasn't until I got to like 8th grade, then 808s and Heartbreak dropped, and then My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Bro. That shit came out when you were in 8th grade.
Dude,
wow.
I was in high school when My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy came out. I was a freshman. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm old.
I was born a month after Nas released Illmatic.
Wow.
I was born, you know?
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
So, for the most part, Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't really shun you from listening to different types of music. It's like anything that's like profane, obviously, like, but even like Catholics and will do that, where they're like, don't listen to music that talks about like this, that, or booty shaking and all that shit. But yeah,
that's awesome, man. Where can the listeners find out about your bands, and when is your next performance, and what are your plans for 2024 moving forward?
My plans for 2024. Well, first off, the listeners can find me. I don't really post about. I'm like the most humble dude when it comes to this shit. I plug my shows. My next show will be December 29th at White Eagle Hall in Jersey City. You can find me on Instagram at JaimeXX, JAIIMEXX. And my plans for 2024, it's funny, like, naturally I'm more of a melancholic person. I usually tend to be more of a sad boy. But this year has just been probably, I say it, no exaggeration, but it's probably been the best year of my entire life.
God bless, man.
Honestly, just
that's great.
Being able to just like go to therapy.
Your new girlfriend,
yeah.
Shout out to her.
Yeah,
I need that Hawaiian ribeye.
She's been amazing and has helped me through so much as far as like my trauma, and she's there, and
that's beautiful, man.
You know, she really is my best friend, and
she seems like a really good girl. I just from pictures.
No,
she seems like a really good person.
She's an angel, man. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm worthy. Sometimes with all this shit I've done, honestly, going to California and coming back, all that dumb shit. And I guess honestly, my goal is just to live life and just to love, man. 2024, whatever opportunities come, just keep working, doing what I love, having a good time, loving, living. That's it, man. Honestly, I don't really have a definitive goal as far as like I want to take my music to the top or I'm trying to get married. I'm kind of just enjoying life, man.
I'm with the wind.
Yeah, just opening up myself up to a lot more things, like coming to Gridfest. Shout out to Gridfest. Going to more concerts, or when someone calls me out of the blue and is like, hey, do you want to go here? Yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Like just opening myself up to more, traveling more. This year I went to Utah. I went around to like Connecticut, upstate New York, went to the Catskills. But my big thing was going to Utah, and I want to make like one big solo trip. And I did that with my cousin, who is also a former Jehovah's Witness.
Really?
Yeah. It's funny though, because me and him were roommates, but we didn't find out we were cousins through marriage until I moved out.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. We went to Utah. I hiked up Mount Zion, and I really got to like just be around like nature and just. So this year, trying to make it out to next year, trying to make it out to Montana or Oklahoma, visit a national park, ride a horse, just do some cowboy shit. You know?
Dope, man. Dope.
That's my big thing, yeah. So.
Well, thank you for coming, Jaime. I really appreciate you opening up to me.
Yeah, no.
And, my listeners, I hope it brings awareness to these type of things, and, it's not over.
Yeah.
You can move forward. And if you're in a situation similar, there's light at the end of the tunnel. You're a prime example of showcasing that. And, you just have to move forward and never give up. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And thank you for coming and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, and thanks again.
Thank you so much, brother.
No problem.